I woke up and found myself in a completely different world. One moment, I was living my comfortable life back home, working as a security manager, dating my girlfriend Xiaolan, eating well, sleeping well. The next moment, I'm lying on a wooden bed in some ancient dynasty called Duchian, inside a mud brick house with a thatched roof. Apparently, I died and came back to life. Or rather, the original owner of this body died, and I took his place. He was the village head of Qinghe Village, a place people call the Widow Village. Years of war killed off nearly all the men. The only adult male left was this village head, and when he dropped dead, the whole village panicked. See, without a village head, the government would split up all the women and send them off to other villages as concubines. Nobody wanted that. So when the doctor pulled the white cloth off my face and found me breathing again, every woman in the village rushed at me like I was the last bowl of rice on earth. Hands everywhere, touching me, making sure I was real and warm. I won't lie. For a second, I thought I was having the best dream of my life. Then my mother screamed at them all to back off before they killed me again. My mother in this life is called Lady Yi. She's tough. After everyone cleared out, she brought me a bowl of some dark mush, a mix of rough grain, wild greens, and chaff. It tasted awful, the kind of thing that makes you question whether living is worth it. But my 4 little sisters stood there staring at me with hungry eyes, swallowing their spit. I handed the bowl over. They licked it clean in seconds, even sucked the chopsticks dry. That hit me hard. I'm the village head, and my own family is starving. The house has nothing. 1 square table, 2 chairs, that's it. My youngest sister is about 10, but looks 5, all skin and bones with a big head. After eating, I asked my second sister to help me walk outside. The village was full of men from neighboring towns, lurking around like vultures. They'd heard the village head was dying and came to scope out which widows were prettiest, hoping the government would hand them out soon. When they saw me alive, they were annoyed. They talked trash right in front of me, saying I faked my death for government aid, saying bandits in the mountains would come finish the job anyway, saying these widows would end up there sooner or later. My little sister wanted to go curse them out, but I held her back. No point. We can't even fill our stomachs. Why waste energy on idiots? But I made myself a promise right then. I'm a modern man stuck in an ancient body that survived actual battlefields. If I can't even run one tiny village properly, then what good am I? Since I'm the village head now, I figured I'd better take a walk around and see what I'm actually working with. The original owner of this body used to inspect the village regularly before he got sick. After he fell ill, his mother just made up nice stories to cheer him up. Crops are growing great. Someone's daughter got married with a huge dowry. All lies. So I walked around with my second sister Xiaoning, and the reality was rough. Most houses were falling apart straw huts. The farmland was dry and cracked, full of weeds, barely anything growing. The kids were all skinny and running around naked. The women, well, from a distance some of them looked pretty good, especially the ones from noble families who'd been sent here as punishment. They dressed light since there was only one man in the village. But up close, everyone looked half-starved with dry, brittle hair. Still, I had respect here. Everyone greeted me warmly. Some of the prettier women even grabbed my hand, which the original owner would have never allowed. They complained about the drought. If it didn't rain soon, there'd be no harvest at all. I spotted my third and fourth sisters out in our field, trying to pull weeds with their tiny hands. They kept falling on their butts, wiping away tears, and getting right back to it. It broke my heart. I sent them home with Xiaoning. Then something incredible happened. I heard a buzzing sound, and a 3D display appeared in front of my eyes. A shopping system, like an online store, but ancient world style. It sold everything from rice and oil to small tractors, all priced in copper coins. It could also buy back raw materials for coins. I checked my pockets. 7 copper coins, the burial money my mother had tucked on me when she thought I was dead. I spent them on rice boxes with meat soup, buy 5 get 1 free. When the food appeared, Xiaoning and I wolfed it down. She licked the box clean and told me it was the most delicious thing she'd ever tasted. Then 2 pretty twin sisters from the village showed up, Wang Jiai and Wang Shi, both 16. Their mother sent them with wild herbs she dug up in the mountains for my recovery. The moment I touched the herbs, the system popped up, Wild He Shou Wu, 60 coins per gene. So, that's when it hit me. This was my way to make money. I gave the twins my leftover rice boxes as thanks and kept the herbs. After Xiao Ning headed home, I silently sold the herbs through the system. 60 copper coins appeared in my hand, just like that. My plan was simple. Go to the nearest town, Ma Shan, buy cheap farm products, and sell them through the system for profit. A middleman hustle, Ancient World Edition. Oh, and while I was walking around, I also felt something strange in my body. A warm energy flowing inside me, getting stronger after I ate. From the original owner's buried memories, I caught a name, Li Gaoqian, the man who gave him his chance on the battlefield, and also the reason he ended up ruined. I filed that away for later. I'd barely started walking toward town when an ox cart pulled up. It was the village head from the neighboring village, a big guy named Lu. He'd originally come hoping I was dead so he could grab some advantage. When he saw me alive, looking skinny and rough, chewing on a tree root, and carrying an empty basket, he called everyone over to laugh at me. His people piled on. Look at Qinghe village's farmland. What a joke. Is the village head here to steal our crops? He's even got an empty basket ready. My face went dark. You think because the tiger's been sick, he's turned into a house cat? We'll see about that. Those guys from Zhao village were still mocking me, so I straightened up and stared them down. I'm not the old you do. That guy was too scared to stand up for himself, always afraid of causing trouble. Me? Back in my old life, I was the kind of man who made luxury car owners hand me a cigarette before they could park. You disrespect me, I deal with you. Simple. I picked up a stick from the ground and pointed it at them. You're accusing me of stealing your crops? How about we talk about how your ox carts just trampled all over my village's fields? Their faces changed real quick. Under Duchian law, destroying someone's crops means 30 lashes and full compensation. Most of them started looking for exits. But village head Lu thought I was bluffing. A sick man waving a stick, all bark and no bite. He kept pushing, stepping closer, trying to provoke me into throwing the first punch so his guys could jump me. Beat me bad enough, and maybe I'd actually die this time. Then he could swoop in on the village. He said my crops were worthless anyway, and called my stick a joke. Touch me with one finger, I dare you. So I did. One swing. Fast, hard, precise. Battlefield instincts kicked in before he could blink. He hit the ground screaming. I pressed the stick right against his throat, just enough to draw a little blood. Everyone around us froze. That's when I discovered something about this body. There's a violent streak buried deep inside. A bloodlust that's hard to control. When I swung that stick, I almost punched it straight through his neck. I had to consciously pull back. The original owner clearly knew about this too, which is why he avoided fighting. Once he started, he couldn't stop. Lu wet his pants. Literally. I looked at the crowd. Come on then, all of you. Where's that tough talk now? Nobody moved. I told Lu he had two choices. Fight me one-on-one, or we both go to the county court. I'd happily let the magistrates search them all, see who stole our wheat seedlings and women's undergarments during their little visit. They scattered like roaches. Lu scrambled up and stumbled away with what was left of his people. That's how it works with bullies. Be polite, they eat you alive. Show a little spine, they crumble. After that, I kept walking toward Mashan town. The drought's sun was brutal, and the road was terrible. My clothes were soaked through with sweat. I spent 3 of my precious 60 coins on a bottle of soda from the system and chugged it under a tree. Then I walked another hour before I finally reached town. The town had a temple market, a place near a little temple dedicated to the god of wealth, where farmers came to sell mountain herbs and homegrown vegetables. Rich shopkeepers and restaurant managers squeezed every last coin out of them. I checked the prices and my heart sank. Because of the drought, grain was insanely expensive. Millet was 30 coins per gene, rice nearly 40, even rough rice was 20. Buying grain here to resell through my system wouldn't work, too expensive, but the reverse could work. My system sold rice for only 5 or 6 coins per gene. I could pull grain out of the system and sell it at market price. Become a secret grain dealer. I just needed startup money, and selling 10 gene of white rice out of thin air would look suspicious. Then I spotted my opportunity. A man was standing there with a carrying pole, trying to sell a load of crabs. Nobody was interested. A fat merchant in silk was trying to lowball him. 3 coins for the lot. Take it or leave it, they'll go bad in this heat. One look and I knew exactly what those were. Big shells, strong legs, dark green on top, creamy white underneath. Classic Shungfang crabs. The same high-end freshwater crabs my girlfriend Xiaolon used to steam for me back home. In my old world, these sold for crazy prices alongside famous brands. I checked my system. My jaw nearly dropped. The system didn't buy these by the gene, it bought them by the piece. 40 coins each. The crab seller spotted me looking and rushed over, grabbing my sleeve. Sir, these are fresh crabs from East River Cliff. I'll sell you the whole lot. 10 coins per gene. I did some quick math in my head. 1 gene here equals 16 liang, and each crab was about 3 liang. So 10 coins per gene meant I could buy roughly 5 crabs for 10 coins. My system buys crabs at 40 coins each. 5 crabs times 40 coins equals 200 coins. Spend 10, get 200. With my 60 coins, I could easily break into 4 digits. That's faster than robbing a government treasury. A silk-wearing merchant nearby was glaring at me. He'd been trying to lowball this crab seller all day and didn't appreciate me showing up. He introduced himself as Chin Dafa and told me I was disrupting the market. Basically, he considered himself the big fish on this street. He decided what price things sold for, and nobody was allowed to pay more. None of my business, I told him. Twice. He sent over his enforcer, a one-eyed thug named Lu Gon, apparently a well-known bully around the temple market. The crab seller panicked and whispered that I should leave, that Lu Gon had killed people before, dumped a merchant in the canal last year. I wasn't impressed. And if I don't give you face? The one-eyed guy raised his fist, but right then a patrol of soldiers walked by and broke things up. Everyone scattered, including the silk merchant. One of the soldiers looked at me and thought I seemed familiar. When I handed him my water flask, still had some ice-cold cola in it from the system. He noticed it was a military-issue flask, the kind only senior officers carried. He snapped to attention and introduced himself formally. Soldier Yi Chi, 137th Garrison, reporting to Sir. I played it cool. Told him not to make a fuss, drink the water, and get going. He swapped his new flask for my old one, promised to have it repaired, and asked where to find me. I told him Qinghe Village. After they left, apparently the whole squad shared my cola and decided I must be some important figure because of how amazing it tasted. Meanwhile, the crab seller had fainted from the sight of soldiers. I poked him awake. Poor guy told me he was born terrified of military men. After the soldiers left, the one-eyed thug came back and made threats. Something about the last person who crossed him having tall grass growing on his grave. I told him he was welcome to come try me anytime. The other vendors whispered among themselves. Who's this scrawny fool picking fights with Lu Gon? They all thought I was dead meat walking. The crab seller weighed out my selection. 5 gene and 8 liang. But he only charged me for 4 gene, 40 coins. Good man. He'd been trying to talk me out of buying the whole time, worried about my safety. Then he mentioned he wanted to buy meat for his sick father, but meat cost 50 or 60 coins per gene now. His 40 coins wouldn't go far. I felt for him. Real filial piety like that deserves respect. So I made him a deal. Give me back the 40 coins. I raise pigs at home. I'll sell you 2 gene of pork. That was a huge bargain compared to market price. The big guy dropped to his knees and started kowtowing, calling me a saint. His name was Wang Lao Wu. I told him to get up, watch my crabs, and wait while I went to get the meat. Of course, I was really going somewhere private to pull pork from the system. As soon as I walked away, I could already hear the vendors around us laughing at Wang Lao Wu for being so gullible. I needed to find a private spot to use my system. Can't exactly have 2 gene of pork appear out of thin air in front of everyone. So I walked away from the market until I was out of sight. Of course, the vendors all assumed I'd run away scared. They figured I was all talk, that I saw the silk merchant's thug and bolted. Some hero, they sneered. The last guy who messed with Lu Gon ended up dead, but Wang Lao Wu didn't move. He stayed right there guarding my crabs, waiting for me. Something about me made him trust I'd come back. Meanwhile, the silk merchant Chin Dafa had scurried off to a blue-tiled building near the temple, the headquarters of the market's managing official, a guy named Lu. This official was technically a nobody, a tiny unranked bureaucrat who ran the temple market. But he'd built himself a little empire. He had 20 or 30 thugs on payroll, secret shares in the local gambling house and brothel, and a reputation for violence. A traveling merchant once threatened to report him to higher-ups. That merchant's head ended up hanging at the edge of the market. Everyone knew who was behind it. When Chin Dafa told him about me, They figured out I was just the village head of Qinghe Village. A widow village, nobody. The official laughed. A worthless village head dared cause trouble on his turf, so they came for Wang Laowu. The official stumbled over to Wang Laowu's stall, drunk, with 3 armed thugs behind him. He put on a fake sympathetic face and told Wang Laowu that his free stall permit was revoked. He now owed 5 coins for the spot, or he had to leave immediately. But conveniently, Qin Dafa was willing to pay the fee and buy the crabs, at 2 coins per gene now, down from the 3 he'd offered before. Wang Laowu dropped to his knees begging. That gentleman offered 10 coins per gene. Please, at least be fair, Qin Dafa smirked. If he had the money, where is he? He ran away. A tofu seller woman spoke up. This is robbery. It's against the law. Her husband went pale with fear. Qin Dafa immediately banned her from selling tofu at the market too. When an older merchant tried to smooth things over, Qin Dafa cursed him out and threatened to ban everyone who said another word. He kicked over half a bucket of crabs. The whole market went silent. These were families who depended on selling their goods here. Nobody could afford to get on Qin Dafa's bad side. The man was sworn brothers with the town mayor. One word from him, and you'd get slapped in chains and sent to the front lines. The thugs moved in to grab Wang Laowu's remaining crabs by force. They weren't even going to pay the 2 coins anymore. They were just going to take them. Wang Laowu held on to his bucket with everything he had. He wasn't afraid for himself. He'd fight them if he had to. But he had his sick father and old mother at home. If he made enemies of these people, what would happen to his parents? He was on the edge of total despair when bang. A water bucket flew through the air and smashed right into one of the thugs. That was me. I came back carrying several gene of pork in one hand and slammed the water bucket upright with the other. Everyone stared. The vendors who'd been calling me a coward suddenly went quiet. Who told you to touch my crabs? I said to Qin Dafa, nice and slow. Wang Laowu was shaking, begging me to run. He'd spotted the knife tucked in my waistband and was terrified things would turn deadly. The market was locked down. The official Liu had posted a dozen thugs with clubs at every exit. Nobody was getting out. Qin Dafa was grinning like he'd already won. Liu the official sneered at me. You think you're walking out of this market today? Wang Laowu grabbed a carrying pole and stood behind me. I'll cover you while you escape, he whispered. Poor guy was scared to death, but refused to let me face this alone. The tofu seller woman tried to shame her husband into helping. He was a scholar. Shouldn't he stand up for justice? He pulled her back, white-faced. What am I going to do? Throw tofu at them? Then the official called out his best fighter, a big man named Kunzi. Former street fighter from the capital, nearly got executed once, saved by the official. Known for being vicious. His arms looked thicker than my legs. Kunzi cracked his knuckles and threw a punch at my head, the kind that could split a skull open. I didn't even flinch. I kicked a bamboo pole off the ground, caught it midair, and spun it like a military spear. Classic Duchian army technique, golden rooster pecking. Before Kunzi could react, the tip punched into his stomach. Blood sprayed out. He grabbed a club and came at me again, swinging for my head. Idiot. I drove the bamboo straight through his shoulder, ripped it out, then cracked him across the skull. He crashed at the official's feet, groaning. The official was furious. He screamed at all his men. What are you standing around for? Beat him to death. 20-some thugs rushed me at once. Qin Dafa's one-eyed enforcer Lu Gan pulled out an actual sword. Wang Laowu raised his pole to help, but I kicked him back out of the way. This was my fight. Here's the thing. The original owner of this body was an elite soldier. And back in my previous life, I'd spent half a year learning combat from my security team leader, an ex-mercenary. Put those 2 skill sets together, and these street thugs were nothing. I jumped into the crowd with my bamboo pole. Light hits left ugly bruises. Hard hits went clean through. They couldn't even get close to me. In seconds, over a dozen men were on the ground howling. The rest backed away, ready to bolt. Wang Laowu's jaw was on the floor. The kind gentleman, who'd offered 10 coins per gene for crabs, had just single-handedly demolished an entire squad of enforcers with a stick of bamboo. I walked toward the official and Qin Dafa, smiling. Hey, don't back away now. You'll look like cowards. The market went dead silent. The official's face cycled through several colors, green, purple, white. Then he clenched his jaw and raised his hand in a signal. On the roof of the temple, a man appeared holding a loaded crossbow, aimed straight at me. The official Liu stood there gloating. So you can fight. So what? Fighting means nothing out here. What matters is status, power, connections. He pointed at the crossbow on the roof. I've seen tougher men than you. The last one got a bolt through his chest. His grave's overgrown now. Then he played his real card, the law. One letter to the magistrate and you're in prison. Maybe exile. Maybe execution, but I wasn't scared. In fact, I was thinking clearly for the first time about something the original owner of this body never figured out. The crossbow was illegal. Only the military was allowed to have those. The moment Lou pulled that thing out, he'd committed a serious crime. Even if I killed him right here, I could report to the military and they'd call it justified. They'd probably even get credit for busting an illegal weapons case. The original owner spent his whole life afraid of offending civilian officials, when his real backing was the military the entire time. The emperor sent retired soldiers out as village heads on purpose, to clean up local corruption. Our protector was always the army. The old me just never realized it. I asked Lou to let the vendors leave first. He agreed, figuring fewer witnesses would make it easier to dispose of my body afterward. The merchants grabbed their stuff and ran. Wang Lao refused to go until other vendors physically dragged him away. Even Qin Dafa slipped out quietly. That rat could smell which way the wind was blowing. Once the market was empty, I tied my knife to the bamboo pole, turning it into a 2-meter spear. I was ready to finish this. Then I heard hooves. A horse came galloping down the road at full speed, the rider expertly jumping over fallen vendors without slowing down. I squinted. Then a name surfaced from the original owner's memories. Zhao Zhu, an old comrade from the battlefield. The memories came flooding back, brothers in arms fighting together against the Turks, winning battles they shouldn't have won, then getting their glory erased by civilian bureaucrats. Our own king had personally killed 27 enemies on horseback and still got his achievements wiped from the record by court officials. I quickly straightened my clothes. Didn't want an old brother seeing me looking like a mess. 17, bro. It's really you. It's me, Zhu Zi. He jumped off his horse and snapped a military salute. My old nickname, 17, was apparently still famous among the troops. I told him it was just a small problem with this market official over some crabs. Zhao Zhu glanced at Lou and his thugs like they were insects. A dusher? What even is that? He tossed me his horse's reins, walked straight up to Lou, put his hand on his sword, and told him to get lost. Lou laughed in his face. You're just a garrison soldier. You dare threaten a government official? I'll have you killed right here. His lackeys cheered him on. Zhao Zhu's eyes went cold. He pulled a whistle from his belt and blew it hard. Lou cackled. You think this is the battlefield? This is Zhangzhou. Civilians run things here. Even your commander can't touch me. The words had barely left his mouth when the ground started shaking. Thundering hooves, getting louder. The patrol soldiers from earlier came pouring in, every last one of them, and they'd grabbed the town mayor on the way, thrown him on a horse like a sack of grain, bouncing around half-conscious. The soldiers came thundering in, and the squad leader jumped off his horse without even glancing at Lou. He went straight to Zhao Zhu. Turns out Zhao Zhu was their team commander now. Then the squad leader spotted me and immediately dropped to his knees. 17, bro. Let me pay my respects. The town mayor, who'd been bounced half to death on horseback, stumbled over to Lou and started slapping him across the face. You idiot. Who told you to mess with village head Yi? Lou was already terrified the moment he saw a full cavalry squad show up. Now with the mayor hitting him, he didn't dare breathe. Zhao Zhu twisted the knife further. Is this how you run things? Hiding illegal crossbows? Are you planning a rebellion? Because that's what it looks like. The word, rebellion, made Lou nearly faint. Rebellion meant the military could take his head as a merit award, no questions asked. He dropped to his knees in front of me, forehead hitting the dirt. Village head Yi. I was blind and stupid. Whatever punishment you want, just say the word. The vendors who'd been hiding nearby couldn't believe what they were seeing. The all-powerful market boss who controlled their livelihoods was kneeling before me like a grandson. Even Qin Dafa, watching from the shadows, was shaking. I understood what was really happening. Zhao Zhu and the soldiers were mostly bluffing, putting on a show. If the military truly wanted someone dead, there'd be no speeches. Just blades. They were being loud precisely because they didn't actually want to create a big mess for their superiors. But I also knew that if I'd asked, my brothers would have made Lou disappear and cleaned it up. That's battlefield loyalty. I just didn't want to burden them. So I let Lou off. Your attitude's acceptable, so I'll spare you. But remember, killing an official in broad daylight is complicated. An accident on a dark night, though, when bandits happen to show up, that's much simpler. You understand? Lou was drenched in sweat. Yes, of course. From now on, village head Yi does business here tax-free, no stall fees, and gets the best spot. After we left, I heard later that Lou sat in his office and figured out what was really going on. The emperor was unhappy with civilian officials and had started replacing them with military men. First village heads, next probably county magistrates. Soldiers running the government. Men who only answered to the emperor and didn't play the usual corruption games. Qin Dafa went cold when he heard that. He'd barely paid taxes in his life. Military governors were known for being ruthless with wealthy families who didn't follow the rules. Meanwhile, Zhao Zhu got me a horse, and we rode for about an hour until I saw it. An official road under construction, workers everywhere. That's when it clicked. Zhao Zhu grinned. You know who my new boss is, don't you? I nodded. The new garrison commander, Li Kuai. No wonder Zhao Zhu had been so bold at the market. His new boss was Li Kuai, the garrison commander. I knew this man. Back on the battlefield against the Turks, Li Kuai was a rising star. He'd even fought in the campaign against Korea under the great General Su Fongding. People called him Little Fan Kuai, and judging by how scared the town mayor had been, Li Kuai clearly came from a powerful family with strong political connections. Zhao Zhu got me a horse, and we rode for about an hour to the garrison's temporary camp. Along the way, he explained why the military had been so aggressive at the market. The emperor was pushing hard to get retired soldiers installed as village heads across the region, and Li Kuai had been sent to Sangzhou specifically to make that happen. Protecting guys like me was part of the job. The camp itself was depressing. The officers were all battle-hardened veterans from the front lines, but the soldiers under them were a joke. Little kids barely off their mother's milk mixed with white-haired old men pushing 70. Their equipment was falling apart. These guys couldn't fight off bandits, let alone rebels. Years of constant war had drained the country of able-bodied men. When I finally met Commander Li Kuai, he was sitting cross-legged in a scholar's robe, playing a guqin. Beautiful music, but I could hear the frustration buried in every note. A warrior trapped behind a desk. While he played, I grabbed paper and brush and wrote up a document. It was a military training and management plan, combining the original owner's battlefield experience with ideas from my modern knowledge. Then his daughter walked in, Li Yi. She'd grown up. Last time I saw her, she was a little kid running around the army camp. Now she was stunning in a red dress, sharp-tongued, and clearly holding a grudge against me. Apparently, she still hadn't forgiven me for kicking her, but years ago when I was the discipline officer and caught her squatting in the wrong place. How was I supposed to know the little brat was the commander's daughter? Li Kuai read my document 3 times over. His expression kept changing, surprise, then shock, then something close to awe. He actually stood up and bowed to me. This is the second time you've helped me. Let me pay my respects. I told him to stop before he got me killed. A commander bowing to a village head would raise too many eyebrows. What I'd written addressed his 2 biggest problems. First, the drought meant his soldiers couldn't grow enough food, and letting soldiers starve would get him punished. Second, his troops were too weak to actually defend the region. My plan solved both. I also suggested he split his forces, keep the capable fighters at camp, and scatter the old men out to the villages. They could train local young men for defense while eating village food instead of military rations. Legal, practical, saves grain. Then I shared a bigger idea, organizing all the scattered veterans across the region to lead villagers in digging irrigation channels. Fight the drought head-on. But I warned him, this kind of project was dangerous if corrupt officials ran it. History was full of forced labor projects that sparked rebellions. It needed to be managed by military people who'd actually take care of the workers. Li Kuai tucked that proposal away to send up the chain. He admitted it was beyond even his ability to execute alone. Li Yi kept trying to needle me the whole time. If you're so brilliant, why are you just a village head? I shrugged. Believe what you want. That made her even angrier. Before I left, Li Kuai shared some high-level news. The emperor was planning major reforms, but nobody quite knew what they'd look like yet. More importantly, the court was preparing for a massive final war against the Turks, a decisive battle to end the conflict once and for all. I rode home thinking about that. A war that big would shake the entire country, and it would be ordinary people who'd suffer the most. I didn't give Li Kuai those plans for free. Before leaving, he handed me 40,000 copper coins as an investment, said it was a loan from the garrison. If I made money, I'd share profits with them. If I lost it all, they'd take a few years farming rights on our village's wasteland as compensation. We signed a contract, but we both knew the military would never actually come farm our land. It was really a way to protect Qinghe village. Anyone trying to grab our land would have to think twice about crossing the army. Most people would have been terrified to take military money. Not me. With my system, 40,000 coins was nothing. I'd have taken 400,000. Back at the garrison, Li Kuai's daughter Li Yi was questioning her father's judgment. We're already broke. That money was supposed to feed the troops. What I didn't know at the time was that Li Kuai then told her the truth about who I really was. Not just some lazy village head, the chief tactical officer, under the legendary General Li Gaoqian. The man who led 3,000 soldiers against 30,000 Turks and won. My nickname, 17, didn't come from using the latrine 17 times in one night, like I joked. It came from changing battle tactics 17 times in a single night, forcing the Turks to retreat. When Li Gaoqian later defected to the enemy, I got caught in the fallout. All my military achievements were erased, and I was demoted to village head. But someone powerful had quietly protected me. The Prince of Yin, the Emperor's own son, who now commanded 50,000 elite troops in the north. I'd once kicked his backside when he was disguised as a cook in our camp. Instead of having me executed, he became my sworn brother. Li Kuai told his daughter the real reason he invested in me. This boy will rise again someday. Being his friend now, while he's struggling, is worth far more than 40,000 coins. Li Yi's whole view of me apparently flipped upside down after that conversation. Meanwhile, I was getting slapped by reality. I rode back to town feeling rich with my 40,000 coins, walked into a horse and cart shop, and pointed at the fanciest carriage. How much? The shopkeeper barely looked up. 12,000 for the horse, 3,000 for the carriage. 14,500 for the set. Wait, 12,000 for one horse? In the capital, it'd be 20,000? My head was buzzing. I thought I was wealthy. Turns out 40,000 coins was pocket change in Duchian. I swallowed my pride and bought what I actually needed. A strong ox for 30,000 coins and a cargo cart for 9,000. That ate up almost everything Li Kuai gave me. Sitting on my new ox cart, I did some depressing math. A good ox cost 30,000 coins. An ordinary worker earned maybe 80 or 90 coins a day. That meant half a year of saving every penny just to buy one ox. No wonder our village didn't have a single one. I spent my last 1,000 coins buying 200 jin of rice from the system, then drove my cart back to the temple market. The place was packed again. People couldn't afford to take a day off, not during a famine. The market official Lu had saved me the best stall, just like he'd promised. His thugs had been guarding the empty spot all day, chasing anyone away who got close. When Lu came scurrying over to greet me, I waved him off with a look of disgust. When I came back to the market, everything was different. News had already spread about how the market boss Lu had knelt before me and begged for mercy. Suddenly, everyone had nothing but praise. People who'd been trash-talking me hours ago were now claiming they'd been cheering me on the whole time. The ones who'd actually helped me, Wang Lao Wu and the tofu seller woman, were the quietest about it. Wang Lao Wu just stood there guarding my crabs with his pork, grinning like an idiot. The tofu woman went back to selling tofu like nothing had happened. Those two had real character. When I pulled up with my ox cart loaded with 200 jin of rice, the whole market crowded around. People couldn't believe it. I'd arrived that morning with empty hands, and now I had an ox, a cart, a horse, and a load of grain. The tofu woman was first in line. I offered her free rice for standing up for me earlier, but she refused, said her husband was a scholar, and she'd be an official's wife someday. Couldn't take handouts. Then she saw the quality of my rice, and her eyes went wide. Every grain was plump and perfect, nothing like the stale stuff in the regular shops. I set my prices, 25 coins per jin for millet, 30 for white rice. Way below the 40 coin market rate, but still a massive profit for me since my system sold it for 5 or 6 coins. Wang Lao Wu came over wanting to buy rice, but had no money left. I scooped out a couple jin into a plastic bag and told him to take it home for his father. He could pay me back in crabs later, delivered to Qinghe village. The big guy walked off with pork on one shoulder and rice in his hand, practically glowing. While nobody was looking, I touched the crab bucket and sold all the crabs through my system. Instant 4-digit profit. I swapped in some cheaper farmed crabs to replace them, then used the money to buy another 200 gene of rice from the system, loaded straight onto the cart where nobody could see. 400 gene of rice sold out fast. The regular vendors snapped it all up. By the time I stopped, I had over 20,000 coins in hand. Not bad for a day's work. I wandered the town a bit and checked out the government salt shop. Their crude salt was terrible, gritty, dark, bitter, at 125 coins per dough. Meanwhile, my system sold fine refined salt for 6 coins per gene. That's a profit margin over 20 times. I filed that away for later, though I knew salt trading was a government monopoly. Touch it wrong, and they'd slap a rebellion charge on you. On my way out of town, I ran into Yi Chi, the young soldier from earlier. He brought me to their camp and offered me a weapon from their confiscated stash. Most of the captured weapons had already been melted into farming tools. Iron was scarce in Duchian. But one piece caught my eye, an old ring pommel saber, clearly from a previous dynasty. The craftsmanship was exceptional, at least 100-fold steel quality. The blade was perfectly maintained despite the ancient, blood-stained scabbard. The soldiers warned me it had 2 problems: impossibly dull despite sharpening attempts, and ridiculously heavy at over 11 gene. Nobody could use it properly. I picked it up and spun it around a few times like it was nothing. Their jaws dropped. I took the saber and left them another 5 gene of pork as thanks. They promised to watch over my business at the market from now on. I loaded up my cart with the leftover rice, some pork, eggs, baby cabbage, and bought seasoning from the system: MSG, fine salt, peppercorns, star anise, big green onions. I had about 20,000 coins left. If I didn't buy anything major, that was serious wealth. Meanwhile, my big sister Xiao was walking home from town with some village women. She had 1,500 coins from pawning mother's hairpin. A cart from Zhao village kept following them, offering rides for 2 coins each. Some of the younger women were tempted. They were exhausted from a full day's work. But the older women warned them it was a trap. They'll drag you into the mountains and sell you. My sister backed them up. Zhao village men bully us every chance they get. The young woman who'd been tempted scurried back into the group. The cart driver's face darkened. I sat on my ox cart heading home, completely drained. The only thing keeping me upright was that warm internal energy flowing through my body. I used a few coins to buy a pack of cigarettes from the system and smoked while admiring my haul: rice, pork, eggs, vegetables, seasonings. Not bad for a guy who woke up dead this morning. My mind wandered to Xiaolon. If she were here, she'd make me a pot of braised pork. We'd crank up the air conditioning, lie in bed. I shook it off. Different world now. But the thought shifted to the women in my village, the red-dressed beauty, the twins, and I made myself a promise. Get the village prosperous, feed everyone, and then all those beauties would naturally come to admire me. What I didn't know yet was that my big sister Xiao was in trouble on the road not far from me. She was walking home with a group of village women, carrying 1,500 coins stuffed in her clothes from pawning mother's hairpin. Neighbor Wang Danian walked beside her, chatting about how she'd noticed me eyeing the village girls after waking up, lobbying hard to marry off her daughter Bu to me. Xiao kept deflecting. We can barely eat. Who's thinking about marriage? That ox cart from Zhao village had been tailing the women the whole time. When the group stopped to rest, a man jumped off holding an axe. His name was Zhao Wulai, Zhao the scoundrel, a thug from Zhao village who made his living as hired muscle and petty theft. He started yelling for someone called Widow's Son, claiming her dead husband had borrowed 20 coins from him years ago, and the debt had snowballed to over 2,000 with interest. Pure nonsense. Widow's Son had never borrowed anything from him. The whole village knew you borrowed from the village head, not from neighboring thugs. This was broad daylight robbery dressed up as debt collection. The village women closed ranks around Widow's Sunday Wang Danny and planted herself in front of my sister, partly out of genuine protectiveness, partly calculating that protecting Xiao would earn her points with me for the marriage scheme. Widow's Son stepped forward anyway, crying and denying the fake debt. Then my sister Xiao, despite being terrified, spoke up too. Zhao Wulai, get lost. My brother's coming and he'll beat you senseless. She'd heard Wang Danian mention I'd thrashed the Zhao village head earlier. She didn't know if it was true, but she waved my name around like a tiger skin banner. She was ready to take a beating from mother later. She just couldn't stand watching her people get bullied. But Zhao the scoundrel wasn't scared. He grinned at Xiao Yi and said, "Oh, little sister Xiao Yi stepping up? How about you hand over those coins you got from the pawn shop today and pay Widow Sun's debt? You and your brother are such good people, right?" My sister's heart dropped. They weren't after Widow Sun at all. They were after her. Turns out Zhao the scoundrel had planned this whole thing carefully. He'd followed my sister to the pawn shop that morning, found out she'd gotten 1,500 coins, and set up this fake debt scheme to take her money. He'd even paid 200 coins to have a forger doctor an old IOU with Widow Sun's thumbprint on it. His plan was simple. Use the fake debt to pressure my soft-hearted sister into paying up. And since he'd done it as a favor to his village head, who I'd beaten up earlier, he figured he'd be protected. He was standing in the road, waving his axe and his forged IOU, calling out to passing travelers to come watch the show. "Look, Qinghe Village's Widow Sun owes me money and won't pay." A crowd gathered. People from the nearby villages all stopped to gawk and gossip. Some folks saw through it right away. Why would Widow Sun borrow from someone in Zhao Village when village head Yi helps anyone who's struggling, but others just wanted entertainment? The scoundrel was cornering my sister, using my own words against her. "Your brother always said the Yi family handles village women's problems. He's not here, so you pay up." Unless your brother's word means nothing, with his axe in his loud mouth, he had my sister on the edge of caving in. She was terrified. That's when my ox cart rolled up. Whoa! Everyone turned. There I was, lying on my cart in the sunset, straw hat on, cigarette dangling from my lips, smoke curling up in the breeze. I sat up, took off the hat, and looked around. The village women nearly collapsed with relief. Widow Sun's eyes practically turned to hearts. Wang Danian was already mentally planning my wedding to her daughter. I jumped off the cart and walked to my sister. "You okay, sis?" She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. The old me never spoke gently to her, barely spoke to her at all. Now here I was, smiling warmly, eyes soft. She stammered, I'm fine, big brother." The bystanders were buzzing. "Wait, that's the same Yidu who took down the market boss today?" I thought it was a different person with the same name. Zhao the scoundrel instinctively stepped back when he saw me. His partner Zhao Si hissed at him. "If you back down now, you're done in the village. Plus you spent 200 coins on that fake IOU. The loan sharks will kill you if you can't pay them back." So the idiot puffed himself up and stepped forward. My sister quickly told me everything. I glanced at the scoundrel and his axe, then smiled coldly. "Zhao Wulai, right? You say Widow Sun owes you money? Fine, I'll have her pay. But first, you pay me 20,000 coins for scaring my sister." "When did I scare your sister?" "You're standing on a public road, waving an axe at a group of women, demanding money. If that's not highway robbery in broad daylight, what is it?" he sputtered. I. The crowd burst out laughing. He got angry and pointed his axe at me. I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, first you robbed my sister. Now you want to rob me too?" Zhao the scoundrel dropped the act and charged at me with his axe. He figured I was still weak from being bedridden. My sister Xiao Yi started rallying the women. "Sisters, if he touches our village head, we fight." The women grabbed rocks, dirt clods, sticks, whatever they could find. Even the young ones who were crying held stones tight in their fists. The bystanders from other villages just laughed. Zhao Wulai sneered at me. "You need women to protect you? What kind of man are you?" That did it. I didn't even draw my blade. I shot forward and rammed the sheath straight into his crotch. He screamed. Before he could recover, I kicked him square in the face. He flew back 2 meters and hit the ground. His axe clattered away. He staggered up, figured the first hit was a fluke, and charged again. What he didn't know was that even though my body was shaking, it wasn't from weakness. It was from this body's bloodlust surging up after getting the new saber. I was fighting the urge to draw the blade and actually kill him. I jabbed the sheath into his crotch again. Perfect accuracy. He went down howling. Then I stepped aside. "Ladies, let him have it." A rain of dirt and rocks pelted him from every direction. And then Wang Danian, that big, sturdy woman, launched herself through the air and sat right on his stomach. He vomited everything, yellow, white, green, all over the ground. My sister pulled Wang Danian off before she crushed him to death. But the moment he tried to get up, sweet little Xiao Yi, the shy, gentle one, kicked him right in the groin again. He rolled away screaming, pointed at us from a safe distance, and yelled, "I'll burn your village down." Then he jumped on his cart and fled. The village women swarmed me, touching me everywhere, checking if I was okay. All those soft hands. I closed my eyes and pretended I was meditating to regulate my breathing. My sister helpfully pulled away the widows and older women who were getting a bit too enthusiastic. Then Widow's son said something that nearly broke my brain. "Village head, why don't you just marry all the women in the village?" I thought I'd misheard her. She was completely serious. "You're good to all of us, and we have nothing to give back. The old saying goes, when you can't repay a kindness, offer yourself. The older women can give you their daughters. We'll all have your babies. In 15 years, every man in the village will be your son. Nobody would dare bully us then." I quietly asked my system, "Do you have a fertility buff feature?" System, "No." Disappointing. Wang Danian jumped in. "Village head, it's not you taking care of us. It's us taking care of you. You just marry us, and we'll make sure you never lift a finger." The other women chimed in. "We'll do all the work. Just marry us." The men from other villages watching this looked like they wanted to strangle me. One of them seemed about 2 seconds from shouting, "Brother, if you can't handle them, tag me in." I tried waving them off politely. Didn't work. Finally, I put on my serious face and barked, "Enough. Behave yourselves." That shut them up. The old village head's authority still carried weight. I told everyone to stay close to the village for the next few days. Too many outsiders had been sniffing around, and Zhao the scoundrel might come back for revenge. Wang Danian immediately said, "If we can't go out, and there's nothing to do, you might as well lead us in baby-making, village head." Some of the younger women, pretty daughters of disgraced officials who worked as servants in rich households, grabbed my arm and started rubbing against me like cats. No fear whatsoever. My body went stiff. I was rescued only when my sister yelled, "It's getting dark. Go home. Did you feed the chickens? Did your kids eat? Strangers were in the village today. They probably stole your underwear off the clotheslines, and you'll have to go outside bare-bottomed." That got them moving. They all piled onto my ox cart without a shred of shame. Somewhere behind a tree in the distance, a scholar in a green robe was watching the whole scene, laughing so hard snot was running down his face. 17 boy, oh 17 boy, karma has finally caught up with you." The ox cart rolled along the road toward home. The village women sat cross-legged on the cart, comfortable as can be, eyeing my rice and supplies, but too polite to ask for anything. They just chatted and bragged about how impressive I'd been today. Some of the younger, prettier ones kept throwing flirty looks at the back of my head, hoping I'd turn around. We hadn't gotten far when a crowd of villagers from other places blocked the road. "Village head ye, how'd you get rich? Where'd the ox and cart come from? Share the secret." Dozens of people surrounded us in seconds. I couldn't fight my way through this one. These were just desperate, hungry neighbors. So I told them a half-truth. I'd been catching crabs and river creatures from dried-up riverbeds and selling them to wealthy buyers in the county. The ox and cart were loans from the garrison. I'd put up our village land as collateral. I showed them the contract with the military seal. That cooled most of them off. Nobody wanted to mortgage their farmland to the army, but they still wanted to know where to sell river products. So I pointed them to Wang Lao Wu at the temple market. They scattered immediately, racing off to dig through riverbeds before someone else got there first. Wang Danian leaned over and whispered, "Can we go catch crabs too?" I shut her down with a look. If it were that easy, why would I tell outsiders about it? She immediately spun around and told everyone on the cart, "See? Our village head is smart. He sent the outsiders on a wild goose chase. Now keep quiet. All of you." My sister Xiao had been sitting quietly, looking guilty. She apologized for being careless with the pawnshop money. I told her not to worry. She'd been brave standing up for Widow's son, and that made me proud. The whole trouble started because I'd been sick and Mother had to pawn her hairpin anyway. I snapped the whip on the ox's rear to speed things up. The cart lurched forward, and all the women tumbled over each other. In the pile-up, someone's loose clothes got pulled off, and one of the younger women shrieked, "Village head, you're driving too fast." Wang Danian grabbed the exposed woman's chest to cover her up. "Why are you covering your eyes instead? She's trying to seduce the village head. Beat her." When we finally got close to home, I saw something unexpected. 2 ox carts were parked outside our gate, and the town mayor, that fat, ugly man with the big black mole, the one I despised, was standing there lecturing some men. But something was off. He wasn't being hostile. He was actually praising me. Your village head never once came begging me for grain. You should all learn to be self-reliant like him. My mother had already grabbed a burning stick from the cooking fire. Xiaoning had her axe. The little sisters held bricks. They were ready for a fight. The mayor spotted the welcoming committee and nearly fell over himself, waving his hands. No, 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 Madam Yi. I'm here to deliver relief grain. 2 full cartloads of rough rice. Not the best quality, but honest, clean grain without dirt or grass seeds mixed in. My mother was stunned. Then the mayor snapped his fingers, and his men dragged forward a man tied up in ropes. The village head of Zhao Village, the same one I'd beaten with a stick that morning. Beat him, the mayor ordered. His men clubbed the gagged Zhao Village head right there in front of my mother. A public punishment for trampling our crops. The mayor left in a hurry after that, bowing and scraping, telling my mother to let me know that he supported me completely and to come to him if I ever needed anything. My mother stood there in total confusion. This was the same mayor who'd humiliated her son, who'd refused to give us a single grain of rice, who'd nearly made her boy kneel. Now he was delivering cartloads of food and beating up our enemies? Xiaoning jumped on the grain sacks, slashed them open with her axe, and confirmed it was all real. Did that old beast suddenly grow a conscience? None of them knew what I'd been up to that day, but the wheels I'd set in motion were already turning. When I got home, I found my 2 youngest sisters kneeling in the yard, too scared to breathe. Turns out they'd grabbed some raw rice from the relief grain the mayor delivered and tried to eat it. Mother had kicked the 4th one so hard she flew 3 meters. Mother's rules were iron. Starve before you take a single grain that isn't yours. That grain belonged to the whole village, not our family. And besides, big sister and I hadn't eaten yet. How dare the little ones eat first? That was her logic. She wasn't happy about the mayor's visit either. While I'd been feeling proud of my day's work, Mother saw it completely differently. She figured I'd done something to force the mayor into bringing his own personal grain stores. 2 cartloads, exactly matching what the government owed our village in relief. And that scared her. The mayor's smiling now, she told Xiaoning. But who knows what revenge he's planning? People like him decide who lives and dies with a wave of their hand. If your brothers made an enemy of him, there'll be trouble. She wasn't wrong to worry. The mayor's nickname was Bull King of Hell. He could conscript any man into forced labor or military service on a whim. When I walked in and saw my little sisters kneeling there trembling, I scooped them both up. They immediately started wailing. Big brother, please don't throw us away. They thought I was carrying them outside to sell them or trade them for food. Apparently, that's what families around here did when things got desperate. I was confused until Xiaoning explained everything. Mother had punished them for stealing rice, and the kids thought they were being abandoned. I pulled out a big handful of dried fruit I'd bought and handed it to Xiaoning to share with the sisters. I sent Xiao-Yi to borrow some grass and wheat chaff from a neighbor to feed the ox and horse. Xiaoning's eyes lit up at the fruit. She was so excited a snot bubble popped out of her nose. This is all for us? But before anyone could eat a single piece, Mother came storming back out. The little ones dropped flat on the ground. She confiscated all the fruit. It's almost dark. Nobody eats anything. Xiaoning gave me a helpless shrug. Before I went inside to talk to Mother, Xiaoning whispered a warning. Be careful, big brother. Mother's mood is terrible, and it's not just about the mayor. While you and big sister were out today, the marriage bureau came. They said big sister is 17. If she doesn't marry soon, they'll force assign her a husband, or we'll have to pay extra taxes. Great. One more problem. But I wasn't going to let it shake me. We'll deal with whatever comes, I told her, and headed inside. I walked into the room and found Mother carefully wrapping up the dried fruit I'd bought, tying it with string, and hanging it from the ceiling beam. She handed me 2 pieces. Famine time. Why waste good food on girls? You eat these, save the rest. It might keep us alive later. I took the whole package back down. They're your daughters too. If I can eat, they can eat. She raised her hand to slap me, then couldn't bring herself to do it. She grabbed my sleeve instead. 1 or 2 pieces is enough. If they eat it all and get a taste for it, the hunger will feel even worse. Then she really let me have it. Not with her hand, but with her words. You're the only man in this family. The only man in this whole village. Your sisters can skip meals, but you cannot. They each save 1 mouthful. That's 5 extra mouthfuls for you. You eat your fill, you earn money. Your sisters marry into good families someday. That's how this works. She started crying. keeping her voice low so the girls outside wouldn't hear. She told me the original Yi-Do had given up before dying, lost his will, stopped fighting. She needed me to understand my responsibility. Father was gone. As the eldest son, I was basically their father now. I wiped her tears and asked about the marriage bureau visit. That nearly broke her completely. She turned away and sat on the bed, shoulders shaking. Apparently, they'd come to say my big sister was 17. Either she gets married soon, or we pay extra taxes, or the government assigns her a husband by force. One mountain after another. I reached into my sleeve and pulled out eggs, 8 big ones I'd bought from the system. Mother's favorite food, back before the family fell apart. She hadn't eaten an egg in ages. Her first instinct was to hang them from the ceiling to save. I stopped her. They're already boiled. You want them to rot? She scolded me. You should have sold these for grain money. I peeled 2 and practically shoved them into her mouth. She chewed reluctantly at first, then couldn't help herself. Behind the door, I could hear Xiao Ning and the little one spying on us, drooling. Is that an egg in Mommy's mouth? Whispered the third sister. I want one too, whimpered the fourth, licking her own fingers. Xiao Ning hissed at them. Shut up. Big brother's negotiating for us. Whatever I said worked, because Mother came outside with me looking slightly less miserable. I handed each sister an egg. They were stunned. Normally anything good went to Mother first, and they fought over the scraps. The eggshells were the usual prize. Now they each held a whole egg. They were so excited they tried to eat them shell and all. I smacked each one on the butt. Only Xiao Ning dodged fast enough. Then I told Xiao Ning to cook dinner. She froze. Dinner? We eat dinner now? Since the famine started, the family ate once a day. Only I got 2 meals, prepared personally by Mother. The sisters had already accepted that tonight's hunger would last until tomorrow's single bowl of porridge. Not anymore. Cook rice porridge. 2 bowls per person. And throw in half a gene of pork. Big sister Xiao came back from feeding the animals and nearly had a heart attack. Brother, we can't be this wasteful. It's not a holiday, but Xiao Ning had already grabbed the meat and was chopping it up with an axe before anyone could stop her, terrified I might change my mind. The little sisters threw themselves at the cooking fire with more energy than I'd ever seen from them. Fourth sister, blow harder. Third sister, more firewood. When Xiao Ning scooped rice from the sack and saw how white and round each grain was, like actual pearls, her face went pale. She looked at me like I'd robbed a dragon's palace. The old me would have eaten first and let the girls have scraps. The old me followed, wolf rules. The man eats before anyone else. But I wasn't him. If you can't keep your own family fed, your rules mean nothing. These girls were skin and bones at an age when they should be growing. As long as I'm their brother, they eat. I showed Mother the ox cart full of supplies. Son, did you rob a government treasury? Big sister backed me up from the cooking fire. No, Mother. People on the road were saying brother did great business at the temple market today. I explained. The ox, horse, and cart came from a garrison loan. The food came from buying and selling crabs and river products to wealthy buyers. Mother grumbled about rich people spending fortunes on fancy crab while common folk starved, but she accepted it. Then she spotted the fine salt, MSG, and spices I'd bought. Off came the shoe. Wastrel, why buy this nonsense? Save the money. She started whacking my head with her shoe sole. I needed a scapegoat, so I pointed at Xiao Ning. It was second sister's idea. She begged me to buy all this stuff, and after she took care of me while I was sick, how could I refuse? Xiao Ning's jaw dropped. Mother grabbed my saber and lunged toward her. I caught Mother's arm. She's young. Just use a stick. I winked at Xiao Ning. To my surprise, she jumped down from the roof where she'd fled and stood tall. You're right, Mother. I corrupted Big Brother. Punish me. She decided that since I'd brought her rice and dried fruit, taking a beating for me was fair. Then I brought Mother and Big Sister into the bedroom and set a whole bucket of copper coins on the table. Both of them gasped. I told them it was gift money from old comrades I'd saved during the war. Mother and Xiao couldn't stop running their hands through the coins, listening to them clink. I told Big Sister to start hiring village women for work, 50 coins per day. That set Mother off again, shoe flying. You're the village head. You could sleep with every woman in the village and they'd still guard your door. And you want to pay them? After about 15 shoe sole hits to my head, I explained my logic. Instead of lending money for free and making people lazy, we'd pay them for honest work. Build a habit of self-reliance. There's a saying, Give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Give a man a donkey. Mother thought it over and actually agreed. Outside, my 3 younger sisters were huddled together, giggling. The fourth one, little Xiao Luo, came running up to me and said with her big, innocent eyes, "Big brother, please buy third sister new clothes. Her old ones have too many holes to patch." I asked why she didn't let third sister ask herself. If I ask for her, then when mother finds out, I'll take the beating instead of her. And her old clothes can be cut down to fit me. So we both get new clothes for only one beating. That's a good deal. My heart twisted. I almost cried. These kids had turned getting beaten into cost-benefit calculations just to have basic clothing. Third sister told me children's clothes cost 500 coins. She said she wasn't asking for free. With new clothes, she could get work at a rich family's house in town. I checked my system. Clothes there cost almost nothing, 20 coins for old-style outfits. I found a shop with Duchian-style children's clothes, picked 2 sets, and told the girls to close their eyes. Open, 2 beautiful new outfits appeared. Their faces lit up like I'd performed actual magic. Xiao Ning came running over wanting hers, but I waved her off. Too many new clothes at once would attract attention and thieves. But she wasn't upset. Instead, she happily helped the little ones get dressed, teaching them important rules like, if you're going to fight someone, come home and change into old clothes first. I turned away to give them privacy and caught sight of mother and big sister quietly organizing supplies, whispering to each other with actual smiles on their faces. Real smiles for the first time. Money doesn't buy happiness, they say. But without money, you can't even buy your family a moment of peace. Back in my old life, I was broke and happy every day. Here, without coins, your own sisters can't even own pants. When night fell, we finally sat down together for a real meal. Nothing fancy, a big pot of rice porridge with pork, leftover eggs, and a plate of pickled vegetables. To me, it tasted mediocre. I kept thinking it needed dates and silver ear fungus. But my family? They acted like it was the finest feast in the world. The little ones blew on their spoons, took tiny sips, then closed their eyes and held the porridge in their mouths like they were floating on clouds. They'd never eaten dinner before, not recently. When they got too hungry at night, Xiao Ning would dig up wild greens or grind tree bark into powder for them. Rice porridge with meat was heaven to them. This was the best meal our family had eaten since I came back from the army. Not because the food was special, just a big pot of rice porridge with pork, some leftover eggs, and pickled vegetables. To me, it tasted pretty bland. But for my family, it was a feast. When mother put down her chopsticks, all my sisters stopped eating too. That was the rule. But the pot was still half full, and it would go bad by tomorrow. So I grabbed their bowls and refilled them myself. Eat until you're full. That's an order. They all looked at mother. She sighed, stood up, and said, "Fine, eat. But anyone who slacks off tomorrow gets a beating." Little Xiao Luo cheered, "Long live mother. Long live big brother," and dove face first into her bowl. I noticed big sister Xiao looked pale and wasn't eating. I figured out what was going on. She was on her period. I slipped outside, got some brown sugar from the system, boiled it into the porridge, and set it in front of her. "Drink this. It'll help with the cramps." She blushed and tried to push it back, saying she shouldn't get special treatment. Xiao Ning immediately clutched her stomach and wailed, "Big brother, I'm dying. I got my period too. Only brown sugar porridge can save me." I gave her a look. "You're practically half a boy." "What period, big brother? You're getting more annoying every day." Xiao Ning poured some of her own porridge into the little sisters' bowls and muttered, "Eat up, girls. When you're bigger, we'll overthrow big brother's tyranny together." "Yes, yes." The little ones agreed enthusiastically, mouths never stopping. Then Xiao started crying. Not from sadness, from happiness. "Big brother, I haven't felt my stomach this full in so long. I can't help it." The little one saw her crying and started bawling too. Xiao Luo sobbed that their father's last wish before dying had been to eat a bowl of porridge with meat in it, and he never got it. That one hit me hard. My eyes went red. I rubbed their heads and told them Dad was watching from above, and he'd want to see them happy. They cried even harder. I escaped outside before the waterworks drowned us all. Stepping out the door, I sensed someone hiding in our woodpile. I reached in and grabbed something very soft. I squeezed instinctively. Village head, please don't." One of the Wong twins tumbled out, straw and burrs stuck in her hair, face burning red, body still trembling. Turns out she'd come to thank me for the rice I'd given them earlier. Before I could say anything, a bunch of village kids exploded from another bush nearby. We saw it. The Wong girl was trying to get close to the village head. One little boy, maybe 4 years old, announced he was going to tell his mother to hurry up and marry me, because if she didn't become my wife, she couldn't be his mother anymore. Then he glared at the Wong girl and said, "Just because your chest looks like a butt doesn't make you special. My mom's chest looks like her back, and she's still better." He bolted before I could catch him. I told the Wong girl to go home and come collect grain tomorrow. She kissed me on the cheek so fast I couldn't react, then ran off into the dark. I touched my face. Not bad. Ancestors from Dadong really do produce fine women. Up on the wall behind me, Xiao Ning was crouching in the shadows, looking down at her own flat chest with deep philosophical concern. Is that bad woman going to become my sister-in-law? I ignored her and got to work. I crouched on the ground and pulled materials from the system to start building weapons for village defense, specifically a crude shotgun made from steel pipe. I'd actually practiced making one of these before in my previous life as a hobby project. Throughout the evening, various village women kept showing up, some to flirt, some to ask about grain distribution. I chatted with them half-heartedly until it got late and things quieted down. When I finally went inside, Big Sister had already made my bed perfectly, military neat, grass mat smooth, blankets folded just right. A born homemaker. Then the little sisters marched in with a basin of hot water and grabbed my feet. Big brother, foot wash time. Before I could protest, 1 foot per sister was already soaking. Xiao Ning appeared with scissors to trim my hair and beard, grinning. Big brother. Even the emperor doesn't have it this good. He's stuck reading reports all day. You've got hundreds of women at your command. Xiao Ning, if you can't say something useful, shut up. You can talk all you want, but my scissors are very close to your nostrils right now. I gave up resisting. After they finished with me, the girls carried fresh water to Mother's room for the same treatment. Then all 4 sisters filled their own basins and sat there soaking their feet with their eyes closed, blissful. Little Xiao Luo even started humming a song. I lay in bed, exhausted but strangely content. No grand ambitions, just feed my village, take care of these people, and maybe, eventually, marry a few dozen wives. Nothing crazy. I drifted off thinking about building a better life here. In my dream, I somehow ended up with an AK-47, a mansion, 300 children, and all the village women living with me making movies. Classic. Then a thunderous explosion ripped through the dream. My hand shot under the pillow and pulled out my knife before my eyes were even open. I woke up to a crash, but it was just Mother beating Xiaoning again. My second sister was clinging to a white cat on the ceiling beam while Mother jabbed at her, but with a burning stick from the cooking fire. Smoke was literally rising from Xiaoning's clothes, but she refused to let go of that cat. You stole family grain to feed an animal. I'll kill you, Mother hissed. The little sisters had already been out gathering wild vegetables at dawn and came back to find this chaos. They hid outside the door, too scared to enter. I stayed in bed, debating whether to intervene. Honestly, I'd been up half the night working and was exhausted. Xiaoning spotted me peeking through the door crack and screamed for help, but Mother shut her down. Keep your voice down. Your brother was working until midnight. Xiaoning, clever as always, threatened. If you keep hitting me, I'll wake Big Brother up, and then you'll feel bad. Then Big Sister mentioned that I hadn't stirred through all the noise, and suddenly the whole family panicked and rushed toward my room. I quickly pulled the blanket over myself and pretended to be asleep. I'd been sleeping naked and was in a rather obvious morning condition. Mother checked my breathing, tucked the blanket around me, and shooed the girls away. Xiaoning snuck to the window to peek at me and was caught by Mother, who slammed the window on her neck and stuffed my dirty sock in her mouth. One hard twist of the shoulder, and Xiaoning was shoved back outside. She sat on the ground next to her white cat, not shedding a single tear. You don't understand? She muttered to it. You're my lucky cat. The cat gave her a look of pure disdain. By the time I properly woke up, Mother had already distributed the government relief grain to every household in the village. I stumbled around looking for my socks. Big Sister pointed at the wall. She'd washed them, and they were flapping in the breeze. They were practically lacquered, she said, holding back laughter. The little sisters brought me a wash basin. I slipped them each a chocolate from the system and gave them a look that said, Don't you dare make a sound. Over breakfast, porridge, eggs, and 2 plates of wild greens that big sister had turned into surprisingly decent cold dishes. A pretty young stranger appeared at our gate. Is this village head Ye's home? Xiaoning dragged her inside immediately, already sizing her up as potential wife material. Mother lit up too. But the girl turned out to be Wang Lao Wu's wife, Lin Qimei. Everyone's enthusiasm deflated instantly. Not a marriage proposal? Why is she here at the crack of dawn then? The little sisters whispered. She'd come because Wang Lao Wu wanted to repay my kindness and sent her to help around our house. Mother pulled her into a private room to interrogate her about how I'd actually made my money. Apparently my own word wasn't trustworthy enough. Am I less reliable than a stranger? I muttered, and ducked into the side room to work on my project. I spent half the day in there and finally built it, my first shotgun. A crude pipe gun powered by an electric arc from a lighter, loaded with tiny steel balls from the system at 50 coins for several Gene. I set up a sand-filled bucket in the backyard and fired. The blast punched dozens of holes clean through the bucket. Sand poured out everywhere. Power is great. Range needs work. I kept tweaking and testing until I was satisfied. By then it was noon. While I'd been busy, Wang Lao had shown up with a huge load of crabs. Other sellers were bringing him so much product he couldn't handle it alone. He'd sent his wife ahead and delivered the crabs himself. He only charged 8 coins per gene instead of 10, saying he was just working for me now and didn't need profit. His wife Lin Qimei had apparently spent the whole morning doing chores around our house so energetically that even big sister couldn't keep up with her. Mother surprised me by being fine with it. You want to build something, you need allies. The village is all women, you need men outside. This girl works hard. She can come whenever she wants. Big sister filled me in on Lin Qimei's background. She was a disgraced official's daughter, forced to marry into Wang Lao Wu's family from another widow village. Her father-in-law was paralyzed, her mother-in-law was blind. Their children were constantly sick and hungry. Wang Lao Wu was too timid to earn decent money, and their farmland produced nothing. They were barely surviving. I was impressed. Mother, you and big sister interrogated one woman for half a morning and mapped out 3 generations of her family tree. You two should work in intelligence. Mother made me military-style flatbread for the road, rock-hard discs called guacue that I'd eaten for years in the army. Terrible taste, but they last forever, fill your stomach, and can even stop arrows if you strap them to your chest and back like armor. When Mother saw me hanging them on my body the old way, she teared up remembering when she'd sent me off to war at 13. Then she noticed me stuffing steel balls into my pouch and grabbed my sleeve. Son, what are you doing? You don't need those for selling crabs. I told her the truth. Crab selling was temporary. The drought would dry up all the rivers soon. I needed a new income source. I was going to become a bounty hunter. The government walls were covered in wanted posters. I'd counted 30 or 40 just yesterday in town. For most people, those posters were just wallpaper. But for me, in this life, I'd been a military scout, worked in intelligence, and rose to chief tactical officer. My whole job was tracking people down. In my previous life as a security guard, I could spot a scammer, a pyramid schemer, or a fugitive with one glance. Bounty hunting would also give me a legitimate explanation for having money, so nobody would wonder where my system profits came from. Mother wasn't happy about the danger, but she never interfered with my decisions. Xiaoning saw my shotguns and asked what they were. I demonstrated on a rock in the backyard. One blast, and the rock shattered into pieces. Her face went white, then instantly lit up. Big brother, can I have one? I'll wipe out Zhao Village. Mother shut that down fast. If someone takes it from you and uses it against your brother, then what? I promised Xiaoning I'd make her a small one for self-defense later. Then I strapped on my saber, slung the shotgun across my back, mounted my horse, and rode out of the village before anyone could even admire my departure. First stop, the neighboring beggar village, run by my childhood friend Sukan. We'd grown up together in the old homeland. He was a certified scholar, a real genius, but he'd offended some powerful people and got banished here as village head. His village was full of men, descendants of a rebel lord, forcibly relocated as punishment. They had almost no land and too many mouths, so most had become professional beggars. But Sukan was brilliant. He organized them like a business. Old people and children begged, grown men defended territory, and all earnings were split equally. Nobody starved. His village had such a fearsome reputation that neighboring villages left them alone. Nobody wanted to fight a mob of desperate beggars with sticks. I heard the mayor actually delivered grain to your village. Sukin asked, looking jealous. I'm going bounty hunting. Got any intel? He laughed. You sure you can handle it? Check back at sunset. He called over an old beggar named Lame's son, who limped up and called Sukan boss. Sukin kicked him. I'm your village head, not your bandit chief. Lame's son just grinned. A village head who doesn't want to be a bandit chief isn't a real scholar. Sukin pulled a sheet of intelligence from Lame's son's coat and kicked him again for good measure. The paper showed the approximate hiding location of a bandit who'd robbed a government treasury, plus traces of other wanted criminals in the area. I rode into the mountains. Using my military tracking skills, I found signs of the bandit within a few passes: campfire traces, disturbed soil, footprints. The guy was smart, sleeping during the day and moving at night to avoid detection. When I found him, he was standing on a tree branch urinating into a gourd, eyes darting around nervously. I crept close, using every stealth technique the battlefield had taught me, raised my shotgun, and pulled the trigger. Bang! He fell from the tree, body twitching. Still alive, suffering. I fired again. The first shot was for money. The second was to end his pain. Go in peace. I cut off his head, strapped it to my horse, and started tracking the next name on the list. The sun was setting when I finally rode back towards Sukin's beggar village. The whole place had been worried sick about me. Sukin was about to send a search party into the mountains. His beggars had been watching the road all day. When they spotted me riding back with bags on my horse, the old ones started drooling before I even dismounted. Sukin walked up and bumped shoulders with me. I bumped him back so hard he stumbled several meters. Still got it, I grinned. I tossed them a sack of white flour, nearly 100 gene, and half a pig carcass. Their eyes went wide. These were people who survived on scraps of rough rice that other families threw out. Sukin noticed my clothes were bulging with coins and asked if the government bounty was really that generous. I told him I had special connections, letting him assume I was cashing in through the military, who'd claimed the official credit while I kept the silver. That was exactly the cover story I wanted. The beggars got excited and started asking if they could try bounty hunting too. Some wanted to borrow my connections. Sukin shut them down. Face is like money. You spend it, it's gone. You can't just borrow someone else's. I offered them a deal instead. They could keep gathering intelligence and partner with other hunters. Anyone who brought a bounty through me would get 50%, way better than the 30% the government magistrates paid out. That got them buzzing. I handed Sukin a pouch with the remaining coins from today's haul and told him to consider it payment for our partnership. He tried to keep me for dinner, but I needed to get home. My family was waiting. By the time I arrived, it was pitch dark. The whole household was anxious. Xiaoning was perched on top of the wall like a lookout. Mother seemed calm on the surface, but she'd burned the pot dry. Water completely evaporated, the whole kitchen smelling of scorched metal. When Xiaoning spotted me on horseback, she leaped off the wall and sprinted 300 meters toward me, arms waving. I grabbed her and swung her onto the horse. She was thrilled. Big brother, this is what riding feels like. I want to ride horses. Mother immediately pinched her thigh and dragged her down. Get off. A girl your age climbing walls and riding horses, shameless. You want to learn riding? Why don't you learn to eat farts instead? While Mother was scolding Xiaoning, Big Sister and the little ones were already unloading supplies from the horse. Rice, flour, oil, more of everything. Their eyes were shining. Little Xiao Luo had disappeared, and just when Big Sister was about to call for her, the tiny one came running back from the house carrying a big bowl of water on her short little legs. Big brother, drink water. I washed my hands and told Mother not to wait for me at dinner time anymore. Some days I'd be out late or overnight. Look how hungry you've let Xiaoning get, Mother scoffed. That money-losing girl. She's lucky I don't starve her to death. And she should wait for you. You're the head of this house. Xiaoning put her hands on her hips. Money-losing girl? People say children come to collect debts from past lives. You obviously owed me money. That's why I became your daughter. Mother looked around at her 4 daughters, felt her blood pressure spike, and reached for the nearest weapon to beat Xiaoning with again. Dinner was another lively affair. Xiaoning dodged Mother's attacks while simultaneously setting the table. The girl had real talent for multitasking. Mother finally caught her with a cooking stick to the butt, but Xiaoning took the hit rather than risk spilling a bowl of porridge. She checked the bowl first, confirmed not a drop was lost, then started screaming. Eat first, beat her later, I told Mother. You'll have more energy. Xiaoning nodded eagerly. Exactly. Eat up. Mother, then you can really wallop me properly. Mother got an odd look on her face and suddenly turned sentimental. I can't even hit you as hard as I used to. I'm getting old. She put down her chopsticks, sighing. Xiaoning panicked immediately. No, you're not weaker. I just run faster now. After dinner, I'll lie on the bed and let you hit me as hard as you want. Full power. I won't move. Mother looked at her with a dangerous glint. Deal. Wait. I was just talking. Xiaoning's face went pale. The rest of us held back our laughter. Kid, you're way too young to outwit Mother. Mother pushed a special bowl of stewed meat toward me and told my sisters to wait until I'd eaten. I pushed it to the center of the table. From now on, we all eat together. I'll have this family eating meat every day. The little ones didn't hear a word I said. The moment Mother didn't object, chopsticks flew at the meat. Xiaozhu bit into a fatty piece and clutched her chest like she'd finally started living. She'd heard that many village girls didn't survive past 10. She figured her time was coming too. Why else would heaven suddenly be so kind? After dinner, I gave Mother all my earnings and headed to the backyard to improve my shotgun based on today's field test. But I'd barely started when I noticed a head peeking over the wall. One of the Wong twins, watching me through the darkness. She stayed there for an hour and a half. Just watching. I pretended to go inside for water, then snuck around outside the wall. There she was, standing on bricks, peering through a crack in the wall, desperate to see into the yard. I don't know what came over me. I reached out and touched her hand. She almost screamed, but when she saw it was me, she bit her lip and froze. Her eyes kept staring forward into the yard like nothing was happening, but her body was trembling and her finger gently scratched my palm. Just as I was about to do something I probably shouldn't, I heard footsteps. I turned and found a dozen village widows standing there, glaring at the Wong girl with pure fury. Are you the older twin or the younger one? Have you no shame? We all agreed. The village head needs rest. Nobody bothers him. And here you are sneaking around. They chased her off. She ran away with her head down, mortified. I stood there, face dark. What are you all doing here? Village head? What did you want with her? She's just a child. What does she know? Go home. All of you. Now. Oh dear, the village head's angry. Run. Thunder and lightning. Time to go home and spank the children. They scattered, laughing. I leaned against the wall, defeated. These women watched me around the clock. How was I supposed to have any private life? They'd turned themselves into a voluntary surveillance network, and I was the target. Then, just as my frustration was peaking, a soft voice floated through the darkness. Village head, were you waiting for me? I turned. A pretty young woman was standing right there, delicate and lovely, looking up at me. The fire in my belly exploded. It's late. What are you doing here? I asked. Village head, you work too hard. You should rest, Wang Jia said softly, looking up at me with those big concerned eyes. I tried to keep my composure, told her to go home and sleep. But she didn't move. Instead, she said quietly, do you find me too forward? If you don't want me around, I'll stop coming. How could I resist that? Before I knew it, I was holding her hand. Cool, soft skin. She told me she was 17. If she didn't find a husband soon, the government would marry her off to some stranger in another village. She said I was the only man she'd ever want. She'd even followed me secretly to the temple market that day, worried about my safety. When she saw me getting threatened, she was the one who ran to find Zhao Zhu and the soldiers. When I watched you fight all those men by yourself, she said, I knew you were the man I had to marry. I pulled her close. She buried her face in my chest, heart pounding. I kissed her. She closed her eyes like she'd been waiting for exactly this moment. We went to the small shed behind my house, a storage room with a cot I sometimes used for naps. I bolted the door. She was beautiful. The daughter of a former imperial minister, she'd been sheltered even after her family's exile. Fair skin, delicate features, curves that could make a man lose all reason. I lost all reason. We spent the night together. Her first time. By morning, she was curled against me like a kitten, nudging her head into my chest. She asked me to go easy on her. She'd come visit often, she promised. I told her to move in with us. She refused gently. Her mother was in poor health, Her twin sisters still needed looking after. She wanted to stay home for now and take care of them. She asked me to register our relationship with the marriage bureau first, and we'd have a proper wedding once things were more settled. That actually made sense. If I just took one woman without any official process, every other woman in the village would riot. This way, we'd do things properly. I'll come ask your mother for your hand formally, I told her. When I stepped back into the main house to grab her some breakfast, I was immediately met by Xiao Ning's suspicious glare. Her nose was twitching like a bloodhound's. Brother, where were you last night? Why do you smell like a woman? Before I could answer, Mother grabbed Xiao Ning by the ear and dragged her away. Then Mother turned to me with the biggest smile I'd ever seen on her face. Don't keep the girl waiting. Bring her some food. And hurry up. Big sister appeared with a bowl of rice and stewed meat, already prepared. She gave me a knowing look. Big brother, you were pretty loud last night. Mother and I thought we had burglars. The little sisters grabbed my sleeves, bouncing with excitement. Big brother, do we have a sister-in-law now? Xiao Ning was struggling against Mother's grip, yelling, Big brother, that one girl tricked you. She's no good. Mother beat her with a stick for that. Shut your mouth about your future sister-in-law. I escaped the chaos and brought breakfast to Jai. She'd already gotten dressed and was tidying up the shed, organizing tools, straightening the bed, limping a little as she moved. I set the food down, pulled her close, and kissed her cheek. Does it still hurt? She turned bright red and buried her face against me. Yes. After sending Jai home, I headed out for another day of bounty hunting. On my way through the village, I noticed the women were not happy. Word had spread about me and Jai. Some of the older widows had dressed themselves up with flowers in their hair, trying to catch my attention. I shooed them away. A flower on your head doesn't make you 16 again, ladies. I grabbed fresh intelligence from the beggar village and got back to work. Today was a good day. I caught 3 more wanted criminals and turned them in at the military camp. If I'd had more daylight, I probably could have gotten a few more. My skills from both lives, military scout training and security guard instincts, made tracking these guys almost too easy. But during my ride home, something nagged at me. While I was busy catching one murderer, I'd noticed another suspicious person nearby and let him slip away. His beard didn't match his age or hair color, definitely a disguise. His arms were unusually thick, his steps steady and deliberate. Not an ordinary man. I filed his description away in my head. Getting cocky in this line of work could get me killed. I also noticed something worrying. Other villagers had caught wind of my success and were walking around with government-wanted posters, squinting at the mountains, dreaming of bounty money. The secret was out. When I reached the beggar village, I tossed Suk in his share, a fat bag of silver coins. He was stunned by the weight. How many did you catch? At this rate, you'll wipe out every bandit in Songzhou. I appreciated that Sukin had been smart about the intelligence he gave me. He'd deliberately picked targets who had no family connections and no gang affiliations, loners who wouldn't bring revenge down on anyone. He was protecting me in his own way. Don't overdo it, though, he warned. Earn enough for both our villages to eat, then ease off. But the damage was already done. Villagers from nearby settlements were watching us, eyes locked on Su Kan's money bag. They could hear the silver clinking. Within minutes, a crowd was pestering me for tips. How do you find them so fast? Our village sent out 12 men, and we didn't spot a single bandit all day. Just mosquito bites. I gave them some basic advice. The wanted posters told you who couldn't enter cities anymore. So where would fugitives go? Mountains or villages? Villages had village heads watching for strangers. That left the mountains. And in the mountains, people needed water and food. Find the water sources, find the trails, find your man. Their eyes lit up like I'd revealed some ancient secret. They rushed off excitedly, promising to share any captures with me. But I had a bad feeling. These were farmers and laborers, not soldiers. I warned them plainly. Any bandit tough enough to survive alone in these mountains is dangerous. If you don't have real fighting skills, don't play hero. You'll get yourselves killed, and then you'll blame Su Kin for bad intelligence. They waved me off. We're not going alone like you. We'll send 50, 100 men. What bandit can fight that many? I shook my head. You can't talk sense into people blinded by greed. There's an old saying, kind words can't save a man determined to die. I told them straight. The government sends dozens of constables after these bandits and still fails. What makes you think you'll do better? They didn't listen. The constables are lazy. We're fighting for food. We'll kill on sight. One even accused me of trying to keep the bounties for myself. I gave up. You can't save people who refuse to be saved. Sukin wasn't worried either. He'd deliberately been selling intelligence about the most dangerous targets to these village toughs. Guys who cause trouble in their own communities anyway. If they catch someone, their whole village benefits. If they die, their village has fewer troublemakers. Win-win, he said coldly. I pointed at him. You scholars really are the most ruthless. He just shrugged. A neighboring village had walked up, thanked Sukin for the intel, and marched off with his crew. Sukin spread his hands. See, he tried to get me to stay for drinks, dog whip wine, supposedly good for stamina. I told him I didn't need that kind of help. He grinned and pointed at my arm. You used to have a muscle line right there from training. It's gone now. When's the wedding, you dog? I told him he could just send gift money and skip the ceremony. He threatened to bring his entire village of beggars to sing folk songs at my wedding. I left before that mental image got worse. Back at the village, Jai was waiting for me on a rock by the entrance, bouncing with excitement when she saw my horse. She grabbed my sleeve like a happy kid. For the first time, she actually looked her age, lively, bright, free. I gave her fabric I'd bought for a new skirt. She was thrilled. She said her mother needed time to prepare before I could formally visit. I told her we should hurry, partly because I wanted the village women to stop harassing me once we were officially engaged, and partly because I worried about her getting too thin at her mother's house. A good wife needs proper feeding. You can't outsource that to the in-laws. That evening, we had chicken soup. I'd brought home old hens, thinking mother could keep them for eggs. She felt their bottoms, declared them too old to lay, and butchered them on the spot. Dinner was good, but the mood was strange. Xiaoning was unusually quiet. When I looked at her, she snapped. What? Am I not as pretty as the Wong girl? Then she let it all out. She'd come to meet me at the village entrance too, but I'd been so busy hugging Jai that I walked right past my own sister like she was invisible. You didn't even greet mother first. You just sat in the yard grinning like an idiot. You got a wife and forgot your whole family. Mother slammed her chopsticks down. I'm happy about it. If my son gives the Yi family an heir, he can bury me alive and I'll die smiling. Unlike you, running wild, can't even find a husband. The little sisters were eating chicken feet instead of the good meat pieces. I asked why. Xiaozhu said she hadn't done enough work to deserve better food. Little Xiaoluo had her own logic. Chicken feet run fast. If I eat them, I'll run faster and do more work. Then she tugged my sleeve and whispered, Big brother, when are you bringing sister-in-law home? I made her a present. Me too, Xiaozhu chimed in. What present? Secret. They both looked at me with guarded eyes. After dinner, Xiaoning stole a handful of chicken bones and climbed the wall to feed her white cat. Mother pulled me aside with her usual worries. The bounty money was good, but bandits wouldn't last forever. What happens when I've caught them all? We needed steady income. I agreed. I'd been thinking about rice trading, buying cheap from wealthy areas and selling to local villagers. But before I could finish that thought, Mother cut me off. Wait, you said something earlier about the wind feeling wrong today. What did you mean? I told her about the suspicious disguised man who'd slipped past me. Her face changed. Wang Laowu's wife mentioned that their village organized a group to go bandit hunting. Wang Laowu went with them. He's big and strong, so they made him join. My stomach dropped. He's supposed to be collecting crabs for me, Mother sighed. His wife said he couldn't say no, and the crab supply was inconsistent. He wanted extra money for his father's medicine. The next day, neither Wang Laowu nor his wife showed up. No crabs, no message, nothing. That wasn't like him at all. Even on days with nothing to deliver, he'd always come by to report in. Something was wrong. Wang Laowu might be in trouble. I couldn't sit still knowing Wang Laowu might be in danger. I strapped on my gear, hat, shotgun, saber, mounted my horse, and rode out. Along the road, people were watching me with unfriendly eyes. Word of my bounty hunting success had spread, and jealousy was turning ugly. I overheard villagers muttering, He's hogging all the money. His widow village has one man. What can he do against all of us? If he tries to stop us, we'll kill him. These were the same people I'd shared tips with just yesterday. Now they resented me for it. That's human nature. Help someone, and they'll find a way to hate you for not helping more. I found Sukin in his beggar village, throwing a feast with the money I'd brought them. Old beggars were teaching younger ones how to use their fighting sticks against guard dogs. Sukin was already thinking about the future. He wanted to retrain his beggars as traveling storytellers. They had great acting skills from years of begging, and they'd overheard enough gossip and scandals to fill 1,000 tales. And the rest of them? I asked. You can't make everyone a storyteller. He grinned. That's where you come in. I can see you're planning something big. You'll need workers, visible helpers, and invisible eyes. Just pay them a little and find them wives, and they're yours. I spat at him. You're already spending my money in your head. I asked where Wang Laowu's village had gone hunting. Sukin said they'd gone to Xianan Mountain, chasing vague intelligence, the cheapest kind, barely confirmed sightings. I warned Sukin that his intelligence-selling business was getting too big, too public. Bandits had connections to powerful families. If the wrong people got targeted, there'd be retaliation against the beggar village. He admitted he'd lost control of it. Word spread too fast, and now everyone wanted in. I rode hard for Xianan Mountain. By the time I arrived, night had fallen completely. Using my battlefield training, I quickly located people hiding in the forest. The first group I found wasn't the hunting party. It was Wang Laowu's wife, along with other village women, old folks, and even children, all huddled in the trees. What are you doing here? I demanded. We followed them, his wife said. We're scared something will go wrong. If there's trouble, we can rush in and take a few blows so our men can escape. My heart sank. They brought their entire families as human shields. I spotted Wang Laowu deeper in the forest, methodically checking every bush with a wood-cutting knife. I told his wife to take everyone home and went after him. As soon as I reached the mountain, I'd noticed something the villagers had missed. Birds kept flying up from the deep forest, circling without landing. That meant something large was in there. Not just one person, either. Multiple presences. When Wang Laowu saw me, his face fell. I told my wife to stop you from coming. I kicked him. You didn't even tell me you were doing this. You think you can handle whatever's hiding in there? Look at those birds. That's either wild beasts or dangerous men. And your village brought kitchen knives. He hung his head. I couldn't refuse. The clan chief ordered everyone to go. We're all family. I can't disobey. So your clan chief can send you to die? And that's fine? Before he could answer, a group marched over. Leading them was a scrawny teenage boy holding a hoe, face twisted into a sneer. You do? Who do you think you are, meddling in our village's business? He barked. Wang Laowu whispered. That's Wang Mengzi, the village head's son. I stepped in front of Wang Laowu. I'm not meddling in your business. Wang Laowu works for me. We have a signed contract. He's supposed to be collecting crabs, not playing soldier in the mountains. Contract? I don't care about your contract, the kid snarled. In Wang family village, my father is God. Even the heavenly emperor doesn't matter here. Then he said something that made my blood go cold. Even if someone screwed your woman, you'd just have to take it. The village head's son kept running his mouth, getting worse and worse. Even if someone screwed your woman, you'd take it. He was screaming it right in my face. Chin up, eyes wild. Wang Laowu wanted to step in, but I held him back. I wanted to hear exactly how far this brat would go. Far enough. I grabbed the kid by the throat and lifted him off the ground like a chicken. He started threatening me. Said he'd have his men wipe out my village, rape Wang Laowu's wife, the whole package. Classic bully talk from a boy who'd never been hit properly. I kicked 2 of his guys down before they could reach me, dragged him across the dirt, then punted him in the stomach. He curled up like a boiled shrimp. I slapped him twice across the face for good measure. Next time you mouth off at me, I take your life. Understand? He stared at me with pure hatred but didn't say another word. Nobody came to help him up. Not one person. Then everything changed. Screams erupted from deeper in the forest. Black-clothed figures burst from the shadows, cutting down villagers with real steel swords. I counted at least 30, and their leader was the disguised man I'd let slip yesterday. The one whose beard didn't match his face. These weren't ordinary bandits. They fought like trained soldiers, better than some Turks I'd faced. They had archers picking off fleeing villagers. Within minutes, dozens of people lay dead or dying in pools of blood. I shouted at Wang Laowu to stop standing there like an idiot. He grabbed his knife and charged toward the fighting. I cursed at him. I meant protect your wife and children, you fool. Get them off this mountain. His wife took care of that problem. She grabbed a stick and started beating him until he turned around. The benefactor told you to protect us, so you run back here. If something happens to him because of you, can you live with yourself? I'd rather die saving him. At least then he'd owe you the favor. Wang Laowu retreated, thoroughly whipped by his wife. Good woman. Terrifying, but good. As for Wang Mengzi, the village head's son, he surprised me. When his followers all ran, he picked up his hoe, screamed a war cry, and charged the bandits alone. An arrow hit his shoulder, but he dodged the kill shot, still cursing. I can't beat one stupid soldier, but I can damn well take you. A bandit kicked him in the chest so hard he vomited blood. He went down, twitching. Then the crazy kid got back up and charged again. Wrong era, wrong place. If I'd gotten this kid in military training, he could have been something. Raw courage like that is rare. But I had bigger problems. These bandits were unervingly good, organized, disciplined, far above street-level criminals. Rushing in blindly would get me killed. I needed to cut the head off the snake. I melted into the darkness. 1 second I was visible, the next I was gone. Their archer, a woman, I noticed, searched frantically for me, but couldn't find a trace. I circled around to the bandit leader, the one called Leopard. He was carving through villagers, enjoying himself. His archer shouted a warning. Leopard, watch out. Too late. I materialized right in front of him, shoved my shotgun against his body, and pulled the trigger. Steel balls ripped through him like he was paper. He looked at me in disbelief, then dropped. I vanished again. The bandits froze. Their leader was dead, and they didn't even see how. Surviving villagers scrambled downhill. The female archer was spinning around, bow drawn, searching desperately for me. I appeared on a tree branch above her. Hey, over here. She looked up. Bang. She crumpled. Her last arrow flew wild and landed right next to Wang Mengzi's crotch. He screamed bloody murder. I dropped down beside him and kicked him. Get out of here. You're in my way. Killing the bandit leader and the archer threw the gang into confusion, and I picked off several more in those chaotic seconds. But these weren't ordinary criminals. They regrouped fast and charged straight at me. Over a dozen armed men, screaming, hurling weapons. I rolled behind a dead tree, aimed my shotgun, and fired into the pack. Steel balls ripped into faces and chests. The tight formation shattered. Men dropped howling. While they scrambled, I reloaded, found new cover, and fired again. And again. By the time Wang Mengzi rallied some villagers and came back with makeshift weapons, I was already stripping the dead. I won't pretend I was calm. My hands were shaking. This body hadn't seen real combat in years, and honestly, I'm a guy from the modern world. Bounty hunting loners with a shotgun is one thing, fighting 30 trained killers is another. The only reason I looked composed was because I was too broke to leave behind a single coin or piece of clothing. Poverty is a hell of a motivator. I was pulling boots off corpses while everyone else was vomiting. Wang Mengzi took one look at the carnage, went white, and collapsed. His legs gave out, and he threw up everything in his stomach. Every young man who'd followed him did the same. Some wet themselves and fainted. The old village had arrived, checked his son was alive, then walked up to me and bowed deeply. Thank you, village head Yi, for saving our people. Soon hundreds of Wang family village residents were kneeling before me, knocking their foreheads on the ground. The women who'd just lost their husbands were already eyeing me, thinking about whether they could relocate to my widow village. In famine times, strength attracts people like moths to fire. Wang Mengzi surprised me again. He walked up, dropped to his knees, and started slapping himself across the face, hard. Brother Yi, I was wrong. I insulted you, and you still saved me. I'm garbage. Nobody could stop him. His cheeks turned purple before I grabbed his arm. Having fire in your belly is fine, I told him. Being stupid about it isn't. If I were someone else, you'd already be dead. Learn from this. He nodded, but I could see it in his eyes. He'd behave around me, but the wildness wasn't going anywhere. You're my big brother now. I'll follow you. But I'm still Wang Mengzi, and I'm still going to be fierce. Fine by me. I could use fierce. The old village head tried to claim credit for killing the bandits. Our village helped village head Yi eliminate these criminals. Surely the government will reward us. His own son shut him down instantly. Dad, have some shame. Brother Yi killed every single one of them. If we want good things, we follow him and work hard. That's how it works. Just like that, Wang family village pledged themselves to me. Between them and the beggar village, I now had 2 communities at my back. Sukin arrived with his beggar army just as I was finishing up. He surveyed the bodies and gave me a thumbs up. You're insane, old friend. Then my sister showed up. Xiaoning had gotten worried when I left the house again. She heard people gossiping on the road about mountain bandits and panicked. She stole 2 of my socks from my room, grabbed a stick, and summoned her white cat. She held the sock to the cat's nose. The cat sniffed it, immediately vomited, and nearly passed out. After recovering, it jumped on Xiaoning's shoulder and pointed the way with its paw. When she found me, she almost cried with relief, then almost cried with rage. I was crouched over a dead female bandit, methodically stripping her clothes and stuffing them in my bag. "Big brother," I nearly dropped my sword. She ran over and patted me down, checking for wounds. Once satisfied I was unhurt, she glanced at the crowd of beggars and villagers around me and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I heard the beggar village came to rescue you." Like a bunch of beggars could rescue anything. The beggars looked wounded. Lame's son waved his stick. "Miss Yi, we may be weak, but we got here as fast as we could." Sukin just laughed. "That mouth of hers hasn't changed." I showed Xiaoning a gold bracelet I'd pulled off the female bandit's wrist. Her eyes went round as coins. Then she noticed my bulging backpack full of jewelry and silver, and the pile of fabric at my feet. Everyone had let me pick first from the loot because I'd done all the killing alone. She was stunned. "They just let you take everything?" Sukin explained. "Your brother killed every single bandit by himself. Of course he picks first." Xiaoning puffed up her chest. "Obviously. My brother's a hero, so naturally I'm amazing too. When I get married, if my in-laws dare bully me, I'll beat them up myself. Won't even need big brother's help." I looked at her and felt my face drain of color. This girl, with that mouth, who's going to marry her? By the time villagers from other settlements arrived with their pitchforks and hoes, hoping to grab some action, the fight was already over. They took one look at the battlefield, 30-some dead bandits, me stuffing loot into my bag, and their jaws hit the ground. I could see it in their eyes. Jealousy, admiration, and calculation, all at once. Every man there was mentally putting himself in my shoes. One guy, surrounded by hundreds of desperate widows, pockets full of gold. They were already living my fantasy life in their heads. Sukan and I had planned for this moment. Not the battle, but what came after. He knew my play before I even opened my mouth. I let everyone stew in their excitement for a minute, then laid it out. "You've all seen what I can do alone. Imagine if I had 30 or 50 trained men. We form a bounty squad. No bandit in Sangzhou escapes us. The money flows in, and everyone eats." Sukin jumped in right on cue, acting amazed like he'd never heard such brilliance. "Our beggar village volunteers. Pick from us." Wang Mengzi started kicking his young men in the backside. "Are you all cowards? Brother Yi is offering you a chance to eat. Get over there and bow." The village head from Wei family Hollow stepped forward too. "If you'll take our men, village head Yi, we owe you a favor." Within minutes, multiple villages were competing to send me fighters. I set my terms clearly. Each village feeds their own men. Every meal must include meat, eggs, and rice. The men train at Qinghe village under my command. No unauthorized trips home. Bounty split. I take 40%, 30% goes to the fighters based on merit, and 30% goes back to their home villages for the village heads to distribute. Everyone agreed instantly. After watching Wang family village stumble blindly into a massacre, and after their own failed attempts at bounty hunting, they all understood. Without me, this business was a death sentence. Some bigger villages scoffed and walked away. "Only 30 to 50 men? Our single clan can mobilize hundreds. He's using these fools as cannon fodder. Let them talk." The ones who stayed were the ones I needed. Hungry, loyal, and willing to work. This was always my plan. A village head with no men can't build anything. My widow village couldn't provide fighters, so I needed to recruit from outside. Train them hard, blood them against real criminals, and build a force that answered to me. These men would start as bounty hunters. But after I'd trained them and they'd tasted real combat, they'd become something much more. Wang Laowu's wife pulled him aside and whispered in his ear, "You go over there right now and kowtow to our benefactor. This is the second time he's saved your life. Without him, you'd be dead tonight, and our whole family would be finished. You understand?" Wang Laowu walked over and knelt before me without a word. Wang Laowu threw himself flat on the ground in front of me, the highest form of respect a villager could show. "Benefactor, I'm just a rough man, but my wife told me that a debt of water should be repaid with a spring. Your kindness is bigger than any spring. Take my life. It's yours. I pulled him up. We're brothers. Don't make it weird. That one word, brothers, hit him harder than anything. His whole life, people had called him useless. His parents nagged him. His village bullied him. Even his wife used to look down on him. Now someone he admired was calling him an equal. I could see it in his face. He'd die for me without hesitation after that. Sukin watched the whole thing with a knowing smirk. He'd fallen for the same treatment from me when we were kids. Before everyone dispersed, I gave 30% of the bandit loot to Wong family village for their losses. They were overwhelmed with gratitude. Sukin's beggars hauled the bandit corpses back to Qinghe village. I need them as proof for the bounty claims. Mother was delighted to see Sukan. He was always her favorite, other people's child, the one she used to compare me to when scolding me. She had Big Sister prepare food and wine for the beggar crew without a hint of disgust. Big Sister moved gracefully among the guests, pouring tea and serving dishes like a proper hostess. The little sisters, though, were terrified. A cartload of dead bodies parked outside our gate had turned them white as ghosts. Sukin wasted no time angling for business. His village was transitioning away from pure begging, and he wanted the contract for hauling bodies and doing the grunt work that the bounty squad wouldn't handle. I agreed. His people deserved the opportunity, and I needed reliable logistics. His beggars were well-disciplined. Despite spending the evening peeking through our windows at the village women, they were all hopeless virgins who couldn't even sit down properly after a while. One word from Sukan and they grabbed firewood, set up camp outside the village walls, and slept under the stars without complaint. I made my rounds that night, checking on the village. Told old Granny Son, our night watchwoman, to keep the women indoors so nobody got spooked by the pile of corpses. Of course, I ran into Jai hiding behind a tree. What are you doing out here? Didn't you hear Granny Son? I was worried about you. They said you killed 30 bandits alone. That's too dangerous. You can't keep. I grabbed her waist and pulled her in before she could finish. She turned red as a beet. I pretended she'd hurt me with her little fist taps to my chest, doubled over groaning. She panicked, rushed to check on me, then saw me grinning and tried to hit me again. I caught her lips instead. After we came up for air, she had a request. Are you going to the city tomorrow? Yeah. Need to collect the bounties. Why? She got shy? My little sister's chest wrapping is worn out. She's too embarrassed to ask anyone to buy new ones. Could you pick some up at a clothing shop? She tried to hand me her coins. I pushed them back. I'm not taking money from my future sister-in-law. What size does she need? Jai thought for a long moment, then blushed furiously and held her hands against her own chest. Same as me, I grinned. No wonder she couldn't ask anyone else. Let me measure to make sure I get the right size. What? How? My hands were already there. She realized what was happening a second too late and tried to retreat, but I told her with a straight face that I needed accurate measurements. She steeled herself like a soldier heading into battle. Fine. Go ahead. Squeeze all you want. We blew out the lantern after that. Spent another half hour in the dark before her legs gave out. As she was leaving, she turned back. My family's almost done preparing. After your business tomorrow, will you come over? The next morning, I loaded up the bandit corpses and headed for the garrison with Sukan's beggar crew pushing handcarts. The bodies were already starting to stink in the summer heat. Everyone had their sleeves pressed over their noses. The garrison had gotten busier since my last visit. My planning document was working. The military was reaching out to civilians for cooperation, and other bounty hunters had started showing up too, hoping to cash in the way I had. When we rolled in with a cartload of 30-plus corpses, everyone stopped and stared. The other bounty hunters were still chasing individual targets. I was delivering wholesale. Commander Li Kuai came running out barefoot on horseback, laughing. He inspected the bodies personally, recorded my achievements, and advanced me the government bounty on the spot. Then the real money showed up. A dozen young officers crowded around me, practically fighting over the corpses. See, these garrison officers, many from noble families sent here to pad their resumes, were desperate for military credit. Without authorization to actively hunt bandits, they couldn't earn promotions. My kills were their golden tickets. One officer named Pei Guang offered 20 strings of cash for the female bandit leader. Before he could finish, a brigade commander named Chui Yu, from the Chui family, the most powerful noble clan, stepped in. He wanted the entire lot. 20 strings per head, all of them, Chui Yu offered. He was 35, sent down from the capital after some political trouble, and needed military achievements badly. The Chui family name carried such weight that nobody dared outbid him. I negotiated him up, and he bought all the corpses at 20 strings each, generously gifting one to Pei Guang as a favor. Final tally, 700 strings from Chui Yu, plus the government bounties. Grand total, 1,000 strings. Over 800,000 copper coins. My first real fortune in this world. The beggars' eyes nearly fell out of their heads. I handed out 150 coins to each beggar on the spot. Then I gave Li Kuai 300,000 coins as his cut. You always grease the wheels of the machine that feeds you. He used it to improve conditions for his soldiers, so I felt fine about it. Li Kuai returned my land collateral contract. You've already paid back more than enough through your contributions. Consider the debt settled. I told him to keep holding it. Having the military's name on our village land was better protection than any wall. He warned me to lay low for a while. These bandits turned out to be wanted criminals from Hunan province, not just local thugs. Killing them all might attract unwanted attention. He assured me the garrison would handle any political fallout. Then he noticed something else. Boy, did you lose your virginity? I went red. Your internal energy, you've been cultivating it for years. Breaking your purity without the right circumstances means you may never advance further in martial cultivation. I stammered something about being a normal young man. He sighed, remembering his own youth. Women are demons. You're too young to handle them properly. Then he grabbed a few strings of cash, hopped on his horse, and headed toward the city's pleasure district. I'm old and sick. Need some healing treatment. Don't tell anyone. His daughter Li caught him at the gate, upset that nobody told her I'd visited. She'd been avoiding other visiting veterans, but apparently I was different. Li Kuai rode off before she could ask more questions, clutching his healing money. I treated Su Can's crew to a feast at a proper restaurant. Full table of stir-fried dishes, big bones for the younger beggars to gnaw on the floor. I kept looking around, expecting someone to mock us for being dirty beggars in a nice place. Su Can laughed. In Duchian, nobody dared disrespect the poor. The founding emperor had been a beggar himself, and he'd killed everyone who'd ever looked down on him. That lesson stuck. After the meal, I pushed 2 large chests, 100,000 coins, across the table to Su Can. He refused at first. The intelligence was sold to Wang family village, not to you. You intercepted it. That's your skill, not our contribution, I insisted. They'd provided the intel, hauled the bodies, and shown up ready to fight for me. They'd earned every coin. Eventually he accepted. Su Can tried to refuse the money. You don't need to give us this much. When you do well, we all do well. Even Lame Sun chimed in. We're beggars. We don't even have anywhere to spend it. I told them straight. I treat you as brothers. If you won't take what you've earned, don't expect me to come to you next time I need help. That settled it. Su Can took the money and declared to his people, from today, Qinghe Village's business is our business. Even if it costs us our lives. I shook my head. Nobody's dying. You follow me to get wives, make money, and live well. If something's actually dangerous, I won't send you in. Lame Sun made an inappropriate joke about body parts and belt loops. Everyone laughed. Su Can quietly caught my eye. He understood what the others didn't. Real wealth attracts real danger. Blood would be spilled eventually. Before heading home, I went shopping in the city. Rice, flour, oil, salt. All the basics, plus extras from my system. I also needed to buy chest wrappings for Jiai's twin sister. Couldn't find anything decent in the shops, so I pulled 2 silk undergarments from the system instead. Cool and comfortable for summer. Su Can assigned a dozen of his stronger beggars to station permanently at Qinghe Village, begging on the roadside by day, patrolling at night. Free security. Meanwhile, something was happening that I didn't know about yet. At a relay station 3 miles from the garrison, a young military officer had been tracking the same bandit gang I'd just wiped out. He'd chased them all the way from Hunan province, losing over a dozen men without managing to kill a single one. When Zhao Zhu showed up and casually told him the bandits were all dead, the officer nearly choked. Impossible. A garrison in another province lost 100 men trying. Who did this? Zhao Zhu just smiled. Who did it isn't important. The bodies are ready for pickup. The officer was desperate to recruit whoever had pulled this off. He offered to give up all credit for the kills. Just let him transfer the fighter to his elite, invincible army unit. Zhao Zhu played it perfectly, extracting 50,000 coins for the garrison in exchange for handing over my military file. Easy money for the garrison, no real commitment from me. As Zhao Zhu left, he warned the officer. "This man has a bad temper. Talented people usually do," the officer replied. Then he opened my file, and his expression turned dark as storm clouds. When I got home, I went to meet Jai at our secret spot and gave her the 2 undergarments. One for her, one for her sister. She turned bright red. "These are so revealing. And why 2? Yours is getting too small. You're still growing." She was touched and embarrassed at the same time. The silk was finer than anything she'd seen, even back when her family was wealthy. "Come on," she said, grabbing my sleeve. "Mother's ready. She wants to meet you properly today." We walked to her family's little courtyard on the west side of the village. Red tassels hung from a gourd above the gate, a traditional welcome sign. Inside, Jai's mother, Lady Wang, was sitting on a daybed giving medical treatment to a young man. She was a doctor, not a great one, but she knew her herbs and acupuncture. She'd been treating villagers for cheap, much to her younger daughter Shi's frustration. The medicine cabinet was running low because she had been gathering all the herbs herself while her sister spent time at my house. She was in the back room, measuring out medicine, when a dirty hand reached toward her. "What are you doing?" She jumped back like a startled rabbit. A grimy stranger leered at her. "Pretty girl, I want you to be my wife." When we arrived at Jai's family courtyard, trouble was already waiting. A big man in his 20s, clearly mentally disabled, was chasing Jai's twin sister Shi around the back room, grabbing at her and drooling. "Pretty girl, I want you to be my wife." He kept lunging at her while she screamed for help. His father, a pharmacist named Old Son who ran a medicine shop in town, stood at the front door blocking everyone, pretending nothing was happening. "My son has a brain illness. He's mentally like a 3-year-old. Just calm him down, will you? Calm him down?" The guy was built like an ox and trying to assault my future sister-in-law. Lady Wang tried to pull the man off, but got shoved aside. Village women came with sticks, but were too frightened to get close. The idiot saw all the women and got even more excited. "Dad, so many women. I want them all to sleep with." "Sleep with what?" I said from the doorway. I was standing there with my saber on my hip and a dozen clean-scrubbed beggars behind me. The room went quiet. Old Son's face changed when he saw my crew, but his son didn't have the sense to stop. The idiot grabbed at Lady Wang's wrist. I caught his arm, and then I slapped him. Hard. Then again, and again. 15, 16 slaps, knocked 3 teeth out. His cheeks turned purple. "Still want to sleep with people?" The idiot started crying. I slapped him once more for the crying. Old Son screamed at me about the law, about his nephew being a county magistrate. "You'll pay for this." Wrong thing to say. I beat him until he was writhing on the ground, making sounds like a dying donkey. Military interrogation training. Maximum pain, no permanent crippling. His son curled up in a corner, suddenly very quiet and well-behaved. I kicked them both out and told Old Son to run straight to his nephew. "Tell him to come deal with me. If he doesn't show up, I'll go smash your shop myself." His employees carried the pair away on bamboo poles. I asked the beggar squad leader, Little Tiger, about this nephew. Turns out he was the county lieutenant, one of 2 in the district. 3 years in the position, recently failed to get promoted, and now running wild. Powerful locally, but ultimately just a county official. A county lieutenant. That's supposed to scare me? After things calmed down, I turned to the real reason I was here. Jai pulled her mother aside and reminded her why I'd come, not for medical checkups, but to formally ask for her daughter's hand. Lady Wang looked at me seriously. "Village head, are you sure? We're a convicted official's family. Marrying my daughter will hurt your career." "What career? I'm a village head. Let's not overthink this." I started unloading gifts from outside. Fine rice, meat from the garrison, fabric for clothes, and a big collection of medicinal herbs I'd picked up in the city. Lady Wang was stunned. People who came asking to marry her daughters usually wanted dowry, not the other way around. Nobody had ever brought gifts, let alone medicines for her practice. "This is my first visit, so I didn't have time to prepare properly," I said, actually feeling a bit embarrassed. I'd asked my mother what to bring, and she just shrugged. While Lady Wang went to prepare food, I noticed she stealing glances at me with a complicated expression. She and Jai were identical, truly impossible to tell apart. I caught something in Shi's eyes that looked like regret. Later I learned she'd been the one who originally planned to visit me that first night, but she'd eaten too much rice and couldn't leave the outhouse. Jai went instead, and the rest was history. What I didn't know was that back in town, Old Sun was lying in bed demanding his nephew destroy Qinghe village. The county lieutenant came rushing over, furious at first, until his informants reported that the village head who'd beaten his uncle was closely connected to the garrison. That stopped him cold. The garrison was becoming the real power in the county. The new county magistrate had ties to them. Picking a fight with me meant picking a fight with the military. His deputy advised making peace. The lieutenant dismissed everyone, then told Old Sun's concubine to go talk sense into the old fool. Tell him we can't afford to provoke these people. The concubine worried what would happen if Old Sun couldn't let go of his anger. The lieutenant smiled coldly. If the old man doesn't make it, there's always me to take care of things, isn't there? After chasing off Old Sun and his son, I stayed to help Lady Wang clean up. But her family was so poor they couldn't even find a single oil lamp. When it got dark, we were all fumbling around in pitch blackness. In the dark, my hands kept landing on things I couldn't identify. Soft, smooth things. Sometimes whatever I touched stayed still, sometimes it jerked away. I couldn't tell if I was grabbing Jai, Shi, or even Lady Wang. My heart was racing, but I knew this wasn't right, so I called it quits and promised to come back tomorrow. Lady Wang held both her blushing daughter's hands and walked me to the door. After I left, the twins immediately started trying on the undergarments I'd bought them. Lady Wang shook her head and retreated to her room. She was exhausted from the day's chaos, and, though she'd never admit it, flustered from when I'd accidentally touched her chest while we were lifting a cabinet in the dark. She told herself it was an accident and tried to sleep, but her heart wouldn't stop pounding. Back home, dinner was warm and relaxed. Mother was smiling more now that we had money. The little sisters were actually allowed to play after eating, a reward for working hard in the fields. It felt like how our family used to be back in the old homeland. Mother asked how things went with the Wang family. Big sister Xiao was curious too, specifically about how I'd handle having a sister-in-law who looked identical to my wife. She'll marry someone eventually, I said. Problem solved. The little sisters looked up from their game. Big brother, why not marry both? Are you crazy? We can't afford that. And Lady Wang would never agree. But Xiao surprised me. Actually, big brother, by local standards, we're one of the wealthiest families around now. Marrying both isn't unreasonable. I shut that conversation down, but the thought lingered. In my old life, that kind of thing only happened in novels. Here it was apparently a practical discussion. After dinner, Xiaoning dragged me to the yard for combat training. We sparred for over an hour, wooden weapons cracking in the night air. Jai apparently came by hoping to see me, waited outside our wall for an hour listening to the fighting sounds, and finally gave up and went home. She lay in bed that night dreaming about me. Her twin sister Shi, lying next to her, couldn't sleep because Jai kept making sounds in her sleep. Before, Jai's sleep-talking was about mommy and little sister, annoying but sweet. Now it was just embarrassing noises. She pulled the blanket over her head, face burning with irritation. The next morning, I went over early to help the Wang family finish setting up. Jai was still in bed, apparently running a fever, or so her mother thought. Lady Wang told me to let her rest. I worked alongside Shi and Lady Wang, moving furniture and organizing the medicine cabinet. When Jai finally woke up and realized it was broad daylight, that I was already there working with her family while she'd been in bed having dreams about me, she nearly slapped herself. She threw on clothes without eating breakfast and rushed out to help, face burning with shame. News about me chasing off Old Sun spread through the village overnight. Everyone was buzzing about how I'd beaten up the famous pharmacist from town without a second thought. I was at the Wang house that morning helping clean up when trouble arrived, the marriage bureau officials. A middle-aged man marched in like he owned the place, sat himself down on the daybed, and immediately started threatening Lady Wang. Your useless daughters still aren't married? You know the rules. Convicted families must marry off their girls at the proper age. No delays. And their land gets sold as dowry to the husband's family. These marriage officials were bottom-rung bureaucrats with outsized power. They decided which woman married whom, and desperate bachelors bribed them heavily for favorable matches. Their actual salary was nothing, but they lived like kings off kickbacks. Lady Wang tried diplomacy. She served them food and explained that her older daughter had already found someone, meaning me. But they weren't here for official business. They'd heard Lady Wong's medicine practice was growing, stealing customers from Old Sun's pharmacy. This was a shakedown, plain and simple, connected to yesterday's incident. The lead official slapped the food off the table. "We're here to enforce the law, not eat your pig slop." She lost her temper. "Look at all those gifts by the door. My brother-in-law sent them. He's marrying my sister." The official sneered. "Everyone knows your family has two useless girls who can't lift a finger. Who'd want them? You're stalling." He turned to she with cold eyes. "You'll be marriage age in a few months too, little girl. Keep talking and I'll marry you off to feed wild pigs in the mountains." He waved for his men to slap she. Jai jumped in front of her sister. "Hit me if you want, but don't touch her." The official threatened to slap them both in wooden neck restraints and drag them away. I was in the backyard, half-dressed from wiping off sweat. I threw my clothes on, double-checked everything was properly fastened, didn't need a public decency scandal on top of this. Jumped over the wall, grabbed the beggars, and came around front. The official recognized me. "You're the village head? Then do your job. How many women in your village are past marriage age? Get them registered, or we'll come arrest them." Lady Wong tried to warn them. She'd seen what I did to people. She kept gesturing at the beggars gathering behind the officials, trying to make them notice. But these men were too arrogant to pay attention. "He's an official? So what? I'm enforcing imperial law. One letter to the county magistrate, and his position is gone." One of their lackeys kicked over the medicine cabinet I'd spent all morning fixing. Herbs scattered everywhere. He claimed the medicine Lady Wong had given him once made him sick, complete lies, and announced they should just take all 3 women right now. Lady Wong watched her carefully gathered medicines, collected one by one from mountains and valleys, scattered across the dirt. Something inside her broke. She collapsed, unconscious. "Mother!" she screamed. Jai dropped to her knees, holding her mother and sister, tears streaming. The officials were delighted. The village women who'd gathered to watch were too terrified to intervene. The officials saw fear everywhere and fed on it. Jai finally called out to me. "Village head." She hadn't wanted to involve me, didn't want to be a burden, but there was no choice. I pushed through and knelt beside Lady Wong. I told she to bring the acupuncture needles. I removed Lady Wong's socks and needled specific points on her feet and palms, a technique I knew from my previous life. Everyone watched, confused, and within moments Lady Wong's eyes fluttered open. The crowd murmured in amazement. Little Tiger, the beggar squad leader, stepped forward. "You officials are bullying women right in front of our brother Yi? Want us beggars to teach you a lesson?" The marriage officials puffed back up. "The law is the law. These girls must marry. A village head can't override imperial orders." They moved to grab the girls again. Then a voice cut through from the crowd. "Is this really how the court expects you to serve?" Everyone turned. The county lieutenant, Old Sun's nephew, stepped forward. "I've been watching from the sidelines. I thought you were doing honest work. Instead, I see this disgrace. I think your career as marriage officials is finished. I hadn't expected this." The man who was supposed to be my enemy had just intervened against his own people. The county lieutenant, Old Sun's nephew, strode in wearing his green official robes, flanked by a squad of constables. The marriage officials nearly wet themselves. In the county hierarchy, a man in green robes was basically God. Turns out the lieutenant had come to Qinghe village that morning specifically to mend things with me. After yesterday's incident with his uncle, he'd spent the night tossing and turning, cleaned out his uncle's pharmacy safe, bought a pile of gifts, and headed my way. At dawn, running into the marriage officials bullying my people was a gift from heaven, the perfect chance to look like a hero in front of me. Village head Yi is a court-appointed official. He barked at the cowering marriage bureaucrat. "Who are you to disrespect him?" The marriage official's face went from arrogant to ghost white in half a second. He started bowing and scraping. "Sir, I didn't know Village head Yi had connections to you." If I'd known. The lieutenant ignored him completely and turned to me with an apologetic smile. "Village head Yi, I'm sorry about this. I've been too busy with county affairs to properly supervise these people. That's how they got so out of hand." Inside, he was celebrating. He'd heard on the road this morning that I'd killed over 100 bandits single-handedly. The garrison commander treated me as an honored guest. Even some big shot from Hunan province was asking around about me. And here was his chance to get on my good side. handed to him on a silver platter. I knew exactly what he was doing, performing for my benefit. But I'm not the original owner of this body. I understand that you don't punch a man who's smiling at you. So I played along, keeping my voice casual. It's nothing. Just some flies buzzing in my ear. I glanced at the marriage official. Though this gentleman seems to have strong opinions about our village, he didn't even respect my position as village head. This young woman here already has a marriage arrangement, yet he insisted on forcibly taking her away. If all Duchian officials enforced the law like this, the people would lose all faith in the government. The marriage official started shaking so hard he could barely stand. The lieutenant kicked him to the ground without hesitation. That kick was from me as a citizen of Duchian with a conscience. Then he pulled out paper and brush, wrote something official, and said flatly, "I'm reporting this to the county magistrate with my recommendation. Your position is finished." The marriage official's world collapsed. He looked desperately toward his own superior, the chief marriage administrator, who'd arrived late to the scene. This boss had actually sent the aggressive official here on purpose, trying to pressure my village as a favor to Old Sun's family. He'd assumed the lieutenant would want revenge for his uncle. Instead, he walked in to find the lieutenant bowing and apologizing to the very man who'd beaten his uncle half to death. The chief administrator's mind was racing. He'd badly miscalculated. Even though the lieutenant had failed to get promoted recently, he was still the county lieutenant, reportedly a former protege of the provincial governor. That kind of background wasn't something a marriage bureau chief could afford to challenge. He stood there frozen, knowing he had to try to save his subordinate. The man was a distant relative, and his own village head would complain if he didn't, but also knowing that stepping forward right now might get him burned too. The county lieutenant tore into the marriage officials like a wolf among sheep. When the chief marriage administrator tried to defend his subordinate, but Qinghe village was resisting enforcement first, the lieutenant cut him off with a roar. "You fool! All these years on your own, and you still haven't learned anything. A village head everyone praises as good and honest, and your people are bullying him? I'll personally report you to the county magistrate. Start packing. Your career is over." Then he turned to me with a completely different face. Warm, respectful, almost humble. "Village head ye, would you mind showing me around Qinghe village? I know your village has mostly women and life is hard. Whatever the county can do to help, we will." I nodded and walked him through the village. Behind us, the marriage official who'd been terrorizing the Wang family collapsed on the ground, legs giving out. The chief administrator was so furious at being humiliated that after we left, he kicked Lady Wang's daybed. But a young constable in the lieutenant's retinue stepped out of the shadows. "My boss said damaged property must be compensated. Should I tell him what you just said and did?" The administrator nearly vomited blood. He grabbed a stick and started chasing his own subordinate down the road, beating him as they ran. Meanwhile, the Zhao village head had shown up with a group of retired soldiers, armed with weapons, hoping to use the chaos as cover to ambush me. But when he saw the county lieutenant following me around like a junior assistant, holding my umbrella, ordering his men to bring me tea, his jaw dropped so hard he slapped himself twice to make sure he was awake. "What official is a county lieutenant?" his dumber villagers asked. "He's basically heaven. He can kill you with a wave of his hand." But the real shock came from the retired soldiers in his group. One of them started trembling, pointing at me. That's the chief tactical officer from the general's command. The one who led 300 cavalry to break through Turk lines and rescued us from that encirclement." Another confirmed it. "I saw him once when I delivered reports to headquarters. Every colonel and commander treated him with deep respect. They all turned on their village head. Why did you pick a fight with him? If he brings his old soldiers to deal with you, we'll all get dragged down." The Zhao village head wanted to crawl into a hole and die. All this time he'd been bullying a widow village run by a man who outranked everyone he'd ever met. In the crowd, Zhao the scoundrel, the thug whose crotch I'd smashed, was clenching his fists in silence. He didn't care about my rank. I'd ruined him. The loan sharks had taken his family's land because of the money he'd wasted on that fake IOU scheme. He was plotting revenge. The village women, meanwhile, were having their minds blown. They'd never seen a county official act like a servant before. The lieutenant was practically bowing to me at every turn, promising government support, telling everyone to stand up instead of kneeling. "What is our village head's background?" they whispered. First the mayor delivered grain. Now the county lieutenant is visiting personally. What's next? The provincial governor? Everyone was staring at the Wang family house with pure envy. The women who'd cursed Jiai for stealing me now had to admit, the girl had incredible instincts. She was perched on a ladder, watching me walk through the village with the lieutenant, completely ignoring her mother's orders to come help clean up. I need to watch my brother-in-law's heroic figure, she protested. Jiai watched me from a distance, shaking her head with a mixture of pride and disbelief. Who are you really? First the mayor brings grain, now the lieutenant comes to bow. Tomorrow you'll probably have the provincial governor show up. If you suddenly tell me your last name is Li and you're the emperor's secret son, how am I supposed to keep up? I'd expected the county lieutenant to just put on a show and leave. Instead, he actually got serious. His assistants brought land registers and census records, checking every household's population, farmland, and housing conditions. They calculated tax reductions and grain subsidies on the spot. This guy had come prepared. We walked out to the fields, and he surprised me again. He knelt down and started pulling weeds alongside an old grandmother, who was so shocked she couldn't speak. His hands had calluses. He'd actually done farm work before. Strange, for someone with such a terrible reputation. Then he started giving me agricultural advice that was genuinely smart. Your village is mostly women. Don't waste their energy on wheat and rice. Plant medicinal crops instead, goji berries, dates, mulberries. Women are detail-oriented, perfect for that kind of work. No other village in Sangzhou is doing large-scale cultivation. Corner the market, negotiate good prices with medicine traders, and your village won't need government handouts anymore. He even knew the specific growing techniques for each crop. I asked how many other villages he'd shared this idea with. He admitted, embarrassed, that he'd tried many times. Nobody listened. It actually cost him a promotion to county deputy. I understood why it failed. Economic crops take years to grow. What do people eat in the meantime? And even if they succeed, where do you buy grain during a famine when transportation costs are astronomical? His idea was good, but incomplete. I didn't shoot him down, though. He'd given me face today, so I returned the favor. I shared a concept from my previous life, something I'd heard about that could help solve the problems with his plan. He pulled out a notebook and wrote down every word, completely absorbed. Before he left, he handed me a property deed. He'd already sent his uncle back to the countryside to retire, and was giving Lady Wang the old Sun family pharmacy in town. Building, license, and all. The deed was already filled out with Lady Wang's name, and even had guarantors listed. I accepted it without much comment. What I told him was worth at least that much. He also promised county subsidies for Qinghe village, house repairs, and additional farmland allocation. I told him plainly, just stop sending people down here to harass us. That's enough. I knew exactly what he was doing. Every smile, every gift, every kind word was calculated. If I ever lost my backing, this same man would crush me without blinking. So I played the game right back, polite, appreciative on the surface, trusting nothing underneath. After he left with his mountain of farewell gifts, I grabbed some of Sangzhou's famous smoked sausage from the pile and brought it to the Wang house. The sausage had a legendary history, supposedly the only food that survived fresh during an imperial canal tour centuries ago. When I walked in, she was being chased around by her mother with a broom for complaining about being hungry again. I handed her the sausage. Here, kid, try some local specialty. She lit up. Brother-in-law, how did you know I was the younger sister? Your sister told me she never gets hit by your mother. Sister is a liar, she pouted, then bit into the sausage, and her eyes curved into happy crescents. Thank you, brother-in-law. Jai watched me from across the room. 1 minute, I was discussing policy with the county lieutenant. The next, I was hammering loose nails in her medicine cabinet. Her eyes were glowing. Lady Wang went to treat patients who'd started showing up. The rest of us kept working. I sorted scattered herbs, fixed the cabinets, reorganized the storage. A man should earn his keep before taking a family's daughter. Late that afternoon, the marriage officials came back. The chief administrator looked even worse than before, lumps on his head, limping badly. Apparently his trip to complain to the county magistrate hadn't gone well at all. The marriage officials came crawling back that afternoon. The lead bureaucrat looked even worse, fresh lumps on his head, limping badly. Before his boss could even finish giving orders, he was already on his knees. Village head Yi. Lady Wang. I was blind. I'm so sorry. He started slapping himself across the face, hard, over and over. Teeth loosened, cheeks turned purple. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. The patients waiting for treatment didn't dare laugh. Outside this door, this man still had the power to ruin their lives. They just wished their own village had someone like me. Was it only us two you disrespected? I asked casually. He spun around to Jai and she. Of course. The young ladies too. Please forgive me. He kept hitting himself even after Jai, too kind-hearted for her own good, said she forgave him. Eventually, he realized he was scaring away Lady Wang's patience and slunk off with his boss. After they left, Jai came over with a message from her mother. Lady Wang wanted to take over Old Sun's pharmacy in town, the one the county lieutenant had given us. But she insisted she'd only be managing it as my employee, not the owner. I waved that off. It's your family's business. Consider it an early wedding gift. Jai knew I'd say that. Her mother had already told her, if I refused the money, she'd just hold it for us. Everything that was hers was mine anyway. Then Jai mentioned her mother worried about being cheated by medicine suppliers since she'd always gathered herbs from the mountains herself. I told her not to worry. I had a source that could supply herbs cheaper than any trader. Which was true, thanks to my system. While nobody was looking, I grabbed Jai's hand. Soft, smooth. We were in that honeymoon phase where every touch felt electric. She checked that her mother and sister weren't watching, then let me hold her hand, face burning red. I also shared an idea I'd been developing. The village women could weave straw hats from wheat stalks, the same famous Qingyun-style hats I'd learned to make in my previous life while trying to impress Xiaolan with handicrafts. These hats were soft, durable, blocked sun and rain, worked as fans, and could even serve as seat cushions. Every household had plenty of wheat straw, and the crops that wouldn't produce grain could supply raw material. You can make hats from straw? Jai's eyes lit up. What? You think your man only knows how to fight? I pulled her close and kissed her cheek like biting into an apple. She squirmed and checked for witnesses. We walked back to my house so I could introduce her to Xiaoning as a potential business partner. Jai admitted she was nervous. I'm a little afraid of her. Afraid of what? I'm worried I won't be a good enough sister-in-law. What she really meant was that Xiaoning glared daggers at her every time they met. But she didn't want to complain or cause me trouble. Good girl. We found Xiaoning in the backyard, fast asleep on a hay pile with her white cat. In the sunlight, with her eyes closed and a peaceful smile, she actually looked graceful and ladylike. She's really pretty when she's quiet, Jai whispered. Give it a minute, I said. Right on cue, Mother's voice thundered from the front yard. Xiaoning, are you hiding somewhere slacking off again? Xiaoning shot upright like a spring. Eyes still closed, grabbed a pitchfork from nowhere, and started frantically stabbing at the hay pile as if she'd been working hard all along. Mother, I'm not slacking. I'm sweating buckets here. She dashed to a nearby tree, grabbed a water gourd she'd stashed there, and dumped it over her own head to fake sweat. Her hair went wild and messy, the perfect image of someone who'd been laboring for hours. Mother came, looked, grunted, and left. Then Xiaoning started attacking the hay pile with real fury. You do, you brat. Give me your life. She drove the pitchfork in so hard the entire stack shook violently. A chill ran down my spine. She was dreaming about killing me. In her sleep. She's still half asleep. Talking nonsense. Jai offered weakly, looking terrified about her future living arrangements. I patted Jai's head. Don't worry. I'm here. She won't dare bully you. Jai pulled my sleeve earnestly. No, let me handle things with her myself. Don't interfere. Jai insisted on handling Xiaoning herself. If I can't even manage a small family matter, what's the point of marrying me? Men work hard enough outside. I shouldn't add to your burdens at home. She told me something that broke my heart a little. I know you're destined for great things. Someday you might need to marry a minister's daughter or a prince's daughter for your career. I'm just a criminal's daughter. I won't stand in your way. I just want to stay by your side, even in the background. I was your first woman. No man forgets his first, right? Then she kissed my cheek, grabbed a pitchfork, and marched straight towards Xiaoning. I braced for disaster. But to my complete surprise, Xiaoning was perfectly friendly. Oh, Sister Jai. You're here. No hostility at all. She even held Jai's hand warmly. It turned out Xiaoning's anger wasn't really about Jai at all. It was about Mother. Mom hates me, she explained matter-of-factly. She keeps saying if I'm useless, she'll marry me off instead of Big Sister. I have to prove I'm worth keeping around by making money for her precious son. Jai pitched my straw hat idea, using wheat stalks to weave hats that the village women could sell. Xiao Ning was skeptical. Sister Jai, are you stupid? My brother takes advantage of you. And now you want to work for him too? You're his first woman. You should be sitting on the bed being a pampered wife. That's what lazy wives do, Jai replied firmly. I chose your brother, so I'll work alongside him. He's amazing, and if we all follow his lead, we'll make good money. Xiao Ning considered this, then declared she wanted to try her own way first. I'm Yi Yuan's daughter too. I might not be worse than my brother. If my idea fails, then I'll come weave hats with you. They shook on it. No fighting, no drama. I was relieved. I went to check on the little sisters. They were in the fields wearing homemade willow branch hats decorated with wildflowers, swinging tiny hoes with impressive dedication. The beggar squad had split up, half on lookout duty, half helping the girls farm while telling them jokes to keep their spirits up. Big brother, we can handle this. It's just a little weeding. They stood there leaning on their hoes, chins raised proudly. These girls were too young to be this responsible. I told them to pack up. It was too hot, and dinner was coming. They asked if they could eat the sausages the county lieutenant had given them. I said yes, but warned them, never accept gifts from strangers when I'm not around. I was walking the girls home when Wang Lao Wu's wife came sprinting toward me, completely out of breath. Behind her was Wang Mengzi with a crowd of men, looking intense. I figured the kid was causing trouble again. But before I could say anything, Wang Mengzi threw himself on the ground at my feet. Brother Yi, please kill me. What happened? I asked. Wang Mengzi was practically crying. After I'd saved his village from the bandits, they'd returned the favor by spreading the word that I was buying crabs. It actually worked. Wang Lao Wu collected nearly 500 gene of crabs in one morning using my name. Then disaster struck. Wang Mengzi was helping transport the crabs when they stopped at a roadside tea stall. A pretty woman claimed to be the shopkeeper's new wife and served them tea. They drank, passed out, and woke up to find every single crab gone. It was Zhao the scoundrel, the same thug whose crotch I'd kicked weeks ago. He'd set the whole thing up. My little sisters burst into tears when they heard. They'd been craving crab for days, but never dared ask because they knew I sold them for money. Now they were terrified we'd lose everything. Their new clothes, their rice, all of it gone to pay back the crab sellers. Honestly, the money didn't bother me much. 500 gene of crabs was maybe a few tens of thousands of coins. I'd just earned 800,000 from the bandits. What burned was the humiliation. Someone had openly robbed my operation and made me look weak. I went to the scene. The real shopkeeper and his helper were tied up behind the stall, stuffed in haystacks. The place was ransacked, crab legs scattered everywhere, the stink of mud and shellfish in the air. Wang Laowu arrived and nearly lost his mind. He sat on the ground muttering, I lost Big Brother's crabs, over and over. Then he grabbed a brick and tried to chase after the thieves. I pulled him back. Calm down. Sukin had already been here. He'd stumbled on the scene, woke everyone up, and chased the thieves, but they'd split into multiple groups and scattered. He rode back on a donkey, frustrated. They planned this well. Couldn't catch anyone. Zhao the scoundrel had already lost his house and land to loan sharks. His village hadn't seen him either. He was basically a ghost now, homeless, desperate, and dangerous. Sukin asked the real question. Forget about catching him for now. What about the 500 gene of crabs? Those sellers need to be paid. I didn't hesitate. I'll cover it. Every seller gets paid in full, original price. This is about reputation. If people hear I welched on a deal, nobody will ever do business with me again. Wang Laowu started punching himself in the head, calling himself useless. Wang Mengzi was slapping his own face, cursing himself for drinking that tea. I told them both to stop. We work together, mistakes happen. Learn from it. Move on. What I didn't say out loud was that this incident actually showed me something valuable. Wang Mengzi, Wang Laowu, Su Kan, they all genuinely cared. They were furious not because they'd lost their own money, but because they'd failed me. That kind of loyalty is worth more than any amount of crabs. We were still talking when the Zhao village head, Lu, the same guy I'd beaten with a stick on my first day, came walking up with a group of retired soldiers behind him. He looked terrified. His face was white, and he tried to turn around and leave, but one of his own soldiers poked him in the back with a sword sheath, pushing him forward. Wang Mengzi jumped up with a stick, ready to fight. His boys grabbed bricks. Lu closed his eyes, bowed to me, and said, "Village head Yi, we heard about what Zhao the scoundrel did. He's from our village. That makes it our responsibility. I've rounded up all his relatives and brought them here. Whether you want to beat them or kill them all, it's your call." I figured out what was going on the moment I saw the retired soldiers behind Lu. These old veterans had recognized me. They were fans from the battlefield days. They'd forced Lu to come grovel whether he wanted to or not. Lu was playing the "punish us however you want" card, classic move. He'd rounded up Zhao the scoundrel's relatives and offered to sell their houses and land to compensate me. It looked generous, but really he was using my name to settle his own grudges with those families while scoring points with me. Most people would have been satisfied with the apology and let everyone go. I'm not most people. First, I made Lu agree to personally execute Zhao the scoundrel once we caught him. His soldiers volunteered him before he could refuse. Our village head says he'll do it himself. The color drained from his face. Killing a man from his own village would put him permanently under my thumb. But he had no choice. Then came the real move. I told everyone, Lu, the relatives, all of them, to sign IOUs for 100,000 strings of cash. If Zhao the scoundrel stayed alive, those IOUs stayed valid. I could seize their homes, their land, even sell them as servants whenever I felt like it. Once the situation was resolved, I'd return the IOUs. Supposedly, the silence was deafening. Even Wang Mengzi was covering his mouth in shock. Sukin understood instantly. He stepped forward and asked the crowd one simple question. Do you have a choice? His beggars and Wang Mengzi's boys all raised their weapons. Zhao Wulai, you deserve to die. The relatives screamed, and they signed. Sukin caught my eye afterward. I could see the admiration. He knew what I'd really done. Those IOUs weren't about Zhao the scoundrel. They were permanent leashes. These families would have to do whatever I said from now on, or lose everything. In one afternoon, I'd turn an entire village's power structure into my puppet show. You need to start training the bounty squad soon, Sukin told me as things wound down. My beggars are too slow. If they'd been faster today, they would have caught the thieves. Meanwhile, deep in the mountains, Zhao the scoundrel had no idea his entire family had just signed their lives away. He was lying on a rock next to a beautiful woman, the same one who'd posed as the tea seller's wife. She was luring him toward a mountain bandit fortress called Fulong Stronghold, promising him he'd become a bandit chief. Once you're the boss up there, she purred, you won't need to rob your own relatives. Just send men to take whatever you want. She was stunning. A mature woman's body with a young girl's face, clothes deliberately revealing just enough to cloud any man's judgment. No wonder Wang Mengzi and all those villagers had happily drunk her drugged tea without a second thought. Back in the mountains, Zhao the scoundrel was plotting with that seductive woman, dreaming about becoming a bandit chief. His first order of business would be killing me, then his old village head. But the woman wasn't impressed with his stolen crabs. She told him that wasn't nearly enough to earn a seat at the bandit fortress called Fulong Stronghold. He'd need to prove himself with something bigger. Meanwhile, I was back home working on something completely different, straw hats. It was maddening. In my previous life, my hands were nimble enough to make crafts that impressed Xiaolon. But this body's hands were rough and clumsy from years of gripping swords. My first attempts were ugly disasters. I kept trying, day after day, hanging the failures on the wall. The beggars grabbed the rejects and wore them happily. Apparently, even my worst work was better than nothing. During those days, the men from the surrounding villages arrived for bounty squad training. I didn't start them on anything complicated, just had Wang Mengzi make them stand in formation. Perfect lines, perfect stillness. Anyone who bent a knee or stood crooked got whacked with a bamboo pole. Wang Mengzi loved every second of it. This became the village's daily entertainment. Passers-by stopped to gawk and gossip. Yidu hasn't gone bounty hunting in days. He's scared. Someone stole his crabs, and now he's hiding. All those men standing like fence posts. What kind of training is that? He's just burning through his money. Hiring all those guys, feeding them. He'll be broke in no time. The bounty hunting craze I'd started had spread across the region. Other villages were copying my methods, sending groups of dozens to hunt criminals. They had some success, but heavy costs. Everyone was watching to see my next move, ready to imitate. When I went quiet, they got confused, then mocking. Even Yu from the garrison sent someone to ask what was going on. His messenger scolded Sukan. Your friend sits at home weaving grass all day. What's that going to accomplish? Is he scared? Sukan handled it smoothly, explaining that I was using a special training method and waiting for the right moment to strike. The messenger wasn't buying it. Then Chueyu's old servant noticed something. He picked up one of my straw hats from the wall and put it on. Young master, this hat is incredible. It's light, sturdy, breathable, cooler than any regular hat I've worn. It works as a fan too. If you sold these, they'd fly off the shelves. The servant was a former farmer. He knew what working under a blazing sun felt like. This could even be supplied to the military for training, farming, field work. The demand would be enormous. Chueyu's eyes started glowing. Military contracts. Massive orders. Serious money. We need to talk to village head Yi immediately. Can we get exclusive selling rights? Sukan watched from the side as his beggars rolled in cartload after cartload of wheat straw they'd been buying from surrounding villages. He smiled quietly. The gossips thought I was finished. The smart ones were about to find out I was just getting started. The straw hat business exploded faster than I expected. I'd spent days struggling with these rough soldier hands, trying to weave a decent hat. My wall was covered with ugly rejects that the beggars happily claimed. Meanwhile, the bounty squad trainees stood in formation at the village entrance every day while Wang Mengzi whacked anyone who moved. Passers-by thought I'd lost my mind. The gossip was relentless. Yidu's scared. Someone stole his crabs and now he's hiding. He's sitting at home weaving grass. What a waste. He'll be broke in a week feeding all those men. They had no idea what was coming. Sukin's beggars had been quietly buying up wheat straw from every surrounding village, and word about the hats was spreading through their network. By the time Chueyu from the garrison came to scold me for not hunting bandits, his own servant picked up one of my rejects and put it on his head. Young master, this is amazing. Light, cool, breathable, works as a fan. If you sold these to farmers or the military, you'd make a fortune. Chueyu's eyes lit up like lanterns. Military contracts. He rushed to find me, but Lame's son was already standing at the gate with my authorization papers, running what amounted to an auction. Lame's son explained the deal. One buyer gets exclusive rights to sell 10,000 hats. No competition guaranteed until all 10,000 are delivered. But you pay for the exclusivity up front, plus 30% deposit on the order. The crowd of merchants went quiet. That sounded insane. Paying before the product even existed? Chueyu didn't blink. 100 strings of cash, the room gasped. 100 strings could buy 100 acres of farmland. Then a voice cut through. 200 strings. A young man on a fine horse, wearing black warrior's clothing, rode up with supreme confidence. Chueyu recognized him. Some officer from Hunan province. They clearly had history, and it wasn't friendly. The bidding war erupted. Merchants jumped in. 215, 220, 280. My heart was pounding. I'd only wanted to run a normal business. 300 strings, the young stranger called out, face completely calm. Chueyu scraped together everything he had. 350, 500 strings, dead silence. 500 strings, at least 500,000 copper coins. For straw hats. Nobody dared bid again. Chueyu sat down on a hay pile, devastated. He'd never felt so humiliated. He pulled me aside. Be careful with that guy. He's from Hunan province. He's been causing problems for the garrison commander, and who knows if he even has that kind of money. I told him not to worry. But privately, I was thinking hard. 500 strings was way too much for hat selling rights. Nobody throws that kind of money at straw products. This young man wanted something else from me. The hats were just his entry ticket. The surrounding villagers who'd sold their wheat straw to Sukan's beggars for pennies were practically having strokes watching rich men bid hundreds of strings. Those are our wheat stocks. We sold them for a few dozen coins. Yidu is evil. Making money and not sharing. Those lying beggars told us the straw was for animal feed. Watching them get showered with money like that. I'd rather die. I shook my head. Sukin's people earned their cut fair and square. They saw the opportunity, took the risk, did the work. These complainers had the same straw in their own fields and couldn't see its value. The young stranger watched Chueyu retreat with a cold smirk. A discarded Chui family branch member thinks he can compete with the invincible flying army, so that's who he was. The same officer who'd been tracking the bandits I killed, from the elite invincible flying army. And he'd come for me, not my hats.